Hello and welcome to Sunflower Philosophy Tarot. My name is Juliana, and today's Timeless Pick a Card reading is going to be centered on romantic relationships, and in particular, your relationship with romantic relationships. So it is around Valentine's Day when I'm recording this, and I thought I'd get into the theme a little bit and have some fun with it. So I wanted to take a look at romantic relationships from the perspective of where you in particular are approaching them from, basically. So this can apply to you whether you are currently in a romantic relationship, whether you're looking for a romantic relationship, whether you're kind of just like not really sure where you stand on that matter, or if you're like looking to change a dynamic that you have with someone currently. This is meant to be an exploration. And, if you're here and you're not even interested in them, but you're just like curious about what this reading will be like, you're also welcome. But I really wanted to explore what energies you might have attached to romantic relationships, right? Like, are you coming at them from a perspective of what you've observed in other people's relationships? Are you coming at them from a perspective of what you've experienced in the past? And what are some energies that you may or may not be aware of that you're bringing to the table that if we bring them to light, you might be able to decide to shift if you want to or not? Really, it could be anything. Everyone is different and everyone likes and requires and is interested in different kinds of things. So it's just meant to be an exploration of that. And I wanted to first begin, as I always do, with a brief centering exercise. So we are going to get into that now, but I will get more into the breakdown of the reading itself and the group selection right after that. So if you want to skip ahead to that, feel free. But if you want to join me first to get centered and just breathe a little bit and relax so you can more effectively choose the group that you feel is right for you, then stick around and let's get into that. So, if you are joining me for the centering exercise, first of all, please do not join me if you are currently driving or doing any kind of activity that you need to focus on. But if it is safe for you to do so, to just sit back and relax and center yourself, then welcome. Feel free to settle yourself down on whatever surface you are sitting on or lying on or whatever your situation is right now. And if you feel comfortable or called to, please close your eyes and bring your attention to your breathing. And as always, as you notice your breathing, you don't have to adjust it in any way. You may find that you naturally do as you bring your attention to it, but you can also just notice what it feels like right now. Just noticing what the in-breath feels like and what the out-breath feels like. And just take this time to settle more deeply into your body and allow yourself to melt into the surface that you're resting on, just even more deeply with each exhale. And with each exhale, you also just release anything that you might be holding on to, any tension, any thoughts, any sensations. Just allow that to flow out with each exhale. And as you do this, you may bring your attention to your heart space. And as you do, and notice any sensations you might feel there, any thoughts or feelings that come up when you move to that space, you may also feel called to begin to imagine that you are breathing through your heart itself, inhaling through your chest and exhaling. And as you do so, you may set the intention here to connect with the essence or spirit of love. And in particular, you may intend to connect with specifically romantic love or romance in general to go along with the theme of this reading. And as you do, allow any sensations, thoughts, or feelings to arise in you without judgment. When you consider love, when you consider romance, what comes up? You don't need to name it, but you can. You don't need to judge it, but you don't need to judge yourself for judging it either. Simply notice. And see if now you can isolate the feeling of love or whatever you're feeling right now and release any thoughts or images that go along with that as you just breathe into that feeling. And now, you may continue to sit with this feeling for a little while if you want to pause the video and take more time to yourself. But if you are ready to join me for the group selection and reading breakdown, then we will now move over to that. Okay, so thank you to those of you who joined me for the centering exercise. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you missed it, it's right before this group selection. You can go back, the timestamps are there. You probably saw that if you skipped. But in any case, if you're ready for the group selection, I will first start with telling you a little bit more about the reading itself. As I mentioned, we're talking about your relationship with romantic relationships, so I actually did pre-pull most of the cards that we'll be going through today. And each group does have a different card deck that I used. I'll show you what they are after I show you the items here that we have to select from. But the reading itself will be broken down as such. We will have cards to represent your current energies and relationship with romantic relationships, like with the concept of them. And it might come through about certain things that have come up specifically for you in your romantic life. And then we will also get into cards to represent your ideal relationship with romantic relationships, or at least something that can point you in a direction towards what you'll want. Because I actually feel like if where you are at right now isn't representative of your ideal, you might not know exactly what that is until you go through more of a journey, right? We don't always know until we go through a journey and we figure out, what's what. But intuitively, you might already have an idea of like, yes, that sounds right, or oh, I never considered that. Maybe that is how I want to shift my perspective, right? Because we're really talking about your perspective more so even than we are about what is going on in your physical reality around romance, although that might come through, well, as we get into the reading. And also keep in mind that you don't have to be sure about whether or not something is your ideal in order to be curious about it and contemplate, could that be something that I want? Or could that be a direction I could explore in? Go in with an open mind, and also remember that some things will resonate, some things might not, and they might be for someone else. And so you can always just let that be. I will also be drawing cards to give you advice on how to bridge the gap between where you're at right now and what your ideal is. And that's, of course, in case you are definitely not where you want to be in the moment with romantic relationships, or if you are, even if you're happy enough, you are curious and exploring in a new direction or opening up to a new perspective, that advice will help you move in that direction. That's my intention, but we'll also see how it goes. Sometimes readings go a little bit differently than I plan, and I'm really excited to see how this one's going to go today. So now let's get into the groups. I have 4 groups here for you today, and they're each represented by a different piece of heart jewelry. And I also will show you a card from the individual decks that each group will be using. So you can use the jewelry to select, you can use the cards to select, you can just go based on the timestamps, go based on vibes, go based on whatever, always use your intuition. I like to give you options. So First of all, for group 1, we have this heart locket. Let's see, hopefully you can see that well enough. It's a heart locket necklace with a little diamond in the middle. And for group 1, we will be using the larger sized Biddy Tarot deck here, this purple deck. Here's an example card. The Justice card was on the bottom of the deck after I pulled all of your cards. So feel free to select based on any of those things. For group 2, we have this little heart bracelet. It has 3 little gold hearts on it. And we have the Mystic Mondays tarot deck. And the card that was on the bottom of your group was the Knight of Pentacles. Okay. And then for group 3, we have this I Love You bracelet with hearts on it. Hopefully you can see that. It says I love you. And we are using the Thoth tarot deck, which has the 4 of Cups on the bottom of the deck with luxury. Okay. And for group... let me make these even, hold on. For group 4, we have this beautiful heart necklace with the Dungeons and Dragons tarot deck. And the card on the back of that is the Page of Strength, which is also the Page of Wands. So feel free to pick based on the deck, the necklace, the card, the timestamps, whatever you want. And I'm so excited about this reading. I will see you over there in a moment. Hi group 1, if you selected this gold heart locket necklace and the Biddy Tarot deck with the Justice card here, then you are in the right place, and this is your reading, which will be all about your relationship with romantic relationships. So I explained this already in the intro during the group selection, but I will go through the reading breakdown as I lay out the cards here because I actually pre-pulled your cards. So we are going to start with cards representing the energies of your current energies towards romantic relationships. So your current relationship with romantic relationships. And this can reflect certain dynamics you've come to expect. It could represent certain energies that are going on there right now, certain beliefs that you might have around them. And we're just going to see where that's at. And then we're going to have cards that will represent your ideal dynamic with romantic relationships. And we're going to look at that, discuss what that means for you, and see if there's a disparity between the two energies. And then we're going to get some cards from the Shadowhunter Chronicles tarot deck to sort of bridge the gap, if you will, between those energies, or at least get advice, depending on what's coming through, for how to bring about the ideal situation in your romantic life. And now, I did mention in the beginning as well, this can be a reading for you, whether you're in a relationship, looking for a relationship, involved with anyone, not involved with anyone, and, you know, even if you're just here and you're like, I don't know, I'm just here. Yeah, go in with an open mind. We're going to see. And as always, please use your own discernment and your own intuition to determine which messages are meant for you and which ones are not, and go from there. So I'm going to finish laying out these cards here. I also got song cards to go along with each of these energies. So there's going to be a song card to associate with your current energy towards the romantic relationships, and a song card to represent your ideal. So I'm going to move these over because I'm going to put the song card, I think, over here. So we have 4 cards to represent each. And actually, I'm going to move these down a bit. I'm going to move these down a bit. And for the song card that's going to represent your current energy towards romantic relationships, we have I'm So Sick by Flyleaf. Interesting. And to represent your ideal, we have Wonderful Life by Alter Bridge. Well, this is interesting because it is definitely two very different looking energies. We'll see how it actually shows up for you when we get more into the cards, because sometimes interpretations are a little bit more nuanced than we might expect, but let's see. So let's start with your current energies, and that can be used to determine whether this might be your group, especially because if it's your current energies, you might have some idea of what's already going on, right? Like, it'll probably resonate even maybe more than whatever your ideal is. You might not be in that frame of mind yet to even know what your ideal is. But we're just kind of giving you a North Star, a place to move towards if you're interested in moving into a different energy, depending on what you see here. So let's get started with the top row. So we have the Moon in reverse. We have the Page of Cups in reverse. We have the Ten of Wands. And we have the Four of Pentacles. And when it comes to your song, I'm So Sick by Flyleaf, which you do not have to be familiar with, but you may want to listen to get a better feel for, because if I don't sing the song, sometimes you miss out on, like, you know, the nuances of the music and the sound and the vibe and the feel, right? So if you feel called to, definitely listen to the song. But the lyrics I have on the back are, I'm so sick, infected with where I live. Let me live without this empty bliss, selfishness. I'm so sick. Boy, oh boy. Group 1. Okay, so there's a few different things coming through with this already. Let me take a drink real quick. Okay. So with the Moon in reverse and the Page of Cups in reverse, I definitely feel like there have been some fears here. I don't know if these are things that you're conscious of at this moment, but it's definitely fears around relationships in general. It might be a fear of romantic relationships. Could be fears around intimacy. With the Page of Cups reverse, also fears around the unexpected, right? And I do feel like with romantic relationships, the unexpected can come up a lot, you know, in terms of getting to know someone new, right? You don't know everything about a person, and the whole point is to get to know them and see how you two vibe together and learn more about a person, and you might be honestly hesitant to do that. Now, obviously, some of you might be in relationships currently, so you might be exploring romantic relationships, but you might be afraid to get deeper, right? You might be afraid to experience more intimate connection in whatever way that makes sense for you. But if you're not in a relationship right now at all, I could see this as being a complete aversion, or at least on some level, a hesitation to get out there and even get started, right? With the Ten of Wands and the Four of Pentacles, I'm feeling some like control issues, for want of a better term. I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but I feel like you might be really struggling to feel secure and protected. This is getting a little bit into what you want, I feel, but with the Four of Pentacles here, that's stability and protection, and I feel like you might feel safer on your own in a certain comfort zone, because that, again, with the fear of surprise, the fear of intimacy, the fear of getting to know someone on a deeper level, maybe even fear of sharing yourself, right? Fear of being surprised by someone else in a way that you are not happy about, and also fear of surprising someone else in a way that they are not happy about, right? That fear of rejection, right? That we're going to reject someone else, that someone else is going to reject us. With the Ten of Wands as well, going along with the control issues with the Four of Pentacles here, it feels like, you know, you feel like also maybe, and this could have to do with some past dynamics, right? For some of you here, maybe you have past dynamics that have stoked these fears, right? Past relationships that have created that within you. For some of you, that might not even be the case. This might be what you're coming in with. You might actually have witnessed other relationships that made you feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to even engage with this because, you know, it hasn't worked out for a lot of people around me. I don't like the kinds of relationships I see portrayed in media or portrayed in society. I actually do feel like, regardless of whether you have your own personal experiences or not, that is somewhat the case for a lot of you. I actually feel like here you might be taking on the burdens, the relationship, like, impressions, the relationship, like, trauma from other people, from society at large. So whether or not it's played out in your personal relationships or not, I feel like you actually are almost taking that on as like your own idea of what relationships are like. Because with I'm So Sick by Flyleaf, this song is specifically about feeling trapped by the culture that they're in, right? Like the singer is like feeling infected with the environment that she is in. So for you, it could be your family, but it could also just be the broader narratives and rhetoric that you see around romantic relationships in your vicinity, online, even just culturally, that doesn't speak to you, and definitely doesn't make you feel safe, right? Definitely doesn't make you feel like you want to get out there and try something new. There's also something here where the specific things that you're seeing that might make you hesitate might revolve around feeling like there's a culture of selfishness or even fakeness in romance, where you're like, is there even anything real out there? Like, can I trust in like another person to be open enough to have like a real deep secure connection? Or is everything, there's like a lot of cynicism, honestly, I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of cynicism here, and I could see it varying for you, for many of you, because depending on your situation, you might even be in a relationship, and it could even be an okay dynamic, it could be a new situation, it could be a more long-term one where you haven't progressed in the way that you've wanted to, but again, like, these fears, regardless of what your current dynamic is, might be preventing you from either going deeper with the person that you are with, or from leaving that dynamic and searching out someone new. And obviously, barring like a really severe situation, like a toxic situation, or abusive situation, like that's a whole different ballgame. But like just in general, in like a relationship that's healthy enough, or at least has potential to really grow, in those dynamics, it might be hard to even see that potential, or to even explore a dynamic that's better or more aligned with what you want, if you are too afraid to open that door, right? And so that I feel like has been blocking you, restricting you from making a move to invite that dynamic into your life, whether in that current situation or current dynamic with a specific person, or in general in your romantic life, right? For some of you, you might even be people who consider yourselves, on the extreme side, very cynical about romance, and you're not even sure, like, why you're here. And, like, is this something I even want, right? But I do feel like for most of you, if this is resonating and you are here, you feel this cynicism, you feel this fear, and you feel this strongly about it because you actually want to believe in something deeper, and that's what you want to bring into your life. That's the feeling I'm getting here, right? Because in this song, I'm So Sick, it's really a plea to be taken out of this culture, this cultural perception that she's in, of being surrounded by things like selfishness and greed and shallowness, and just, in your case, like maybe things like lack of empathy, lack of compassion, lack of like true deep understanding, lack of love. Whether you're conscious of it or not, I feel like that's something that you really do desire, and you really want to believe in something more. Like, you really do want to move towards that. And if this is something that's more subconscious, and you just feel like you haven't been able to move forward, like you've been nervous about it, or you've had some fears coming up and you haven't been able to name them, that's kind of what this is, right? It's really like cultural conditioning that could also stem from certain personal experiences you've had with like family relationships, your own relationships, friends relationships, things that you've observed. There might be a bit of an ingrained subconscious fear or burden that's been placed on you that may or may not actually be your story, right? But you might, on some level, make it your story. And you might have trouble seeing examples of the kinds of relationship that would truly be your ideal. But what exactly would that be? Let's see. Like, what is your ideal? What do you really want? And again, keep an open mind. This could speak to you. You could be unsure as to whether this is really what you want. But if you feel open enough to this ideal, then we are going to get cards to talk about how you can kind of bridge that gap, how you can, remove some of these fears and burdens. But let's just take it one thing at a time. So let's get into what your ideal is. So we've got the Hierophant. Okay. We've got the Ten of Cups. All right. We've got the Queen of Pentacles. And we've got the Eight of Pentacles. Okay. This is relatively straightforward. And we also have the song Wonderful Life by Alter Bridge. I'll read the lyrics in just a moment. But right off the bat, like, it seems to me, and I think for some of you, you're going to be like, yeah. And for others of you, you're going to be like, I don't know, right? It's going to depend on where you're at. But the ideal that's being presented here is very much like a traditional, and when I say traditional, I don't mean it has to mean like the like kind of cookie cutter relationship that you see. I feel like traditional on the outside, but very deep and personal and individual and unique on the inside. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. But we have the Hierophant. To me, like marriage, like union between two people, most likely. And when I say more traditional, you know, you might just be looking for like a partnership that fits within like the dynamic of like an average marriage, right? Like you want, at least that's like the foundation that you want for your relationship. If you're like, I don't know if I'm that traditional, hold on, we'll get there. Ten of Cups, family, like you might want that marriage and family, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful. With Queen of Pentacles here, I feel like this Queen of Pentacles can represent either you and how you feel in the relationship or a partner, but it can also represent both, right? But the Queen of Pentacles is very secure, very healthy, financially secure, like just motherly even. So you might be looking for specifically like a feminine figure, someone to raise children with, to take care of the home, or you want to take care of your own home, or you want a dynamic where like you and your partner both are like very devoted to your home life and nurturing and caring towards each other. And I do feel like specifically you want to be cared for, and or you want to care for, probably both. With the Eight of Pentacles here, that's focused, devoted. Like you want to settle down and you want to be with someone, and you don't like want to look anywhere else, right? Like you want to be secure in a relationship. Security. You want security in a relationship to be like, this is my person. I know it's my person. I don't have to go out there looking, you know. That's what I feel like is really the case for this group. Now, for some of you, it could be that you are so far from believing this is possible that you're resistant to hearing this because the cynicism and the fear runs that deep. For others of you, you know, if you're like, I don't know if this is me, this might not be my group, right? Then you might want to pick a different group. But for those of you who are also like, yeah, this is what I want, I just don't know if I can have it, right? Or this is what I want, and I've maybe for some of you, you've even entered a relationship or taken a step towards a relationship, or you have a person in mind that you want to step towards. And as you've moved towards that relationship, these fears have all come up much more strongly, because it's basically like your subconscious being like, hey, you want this thing. Maybe if you want to be ready for this thing, you have to look at some of the stuff that stopped you in the past that's still there, right? And look at it and say, is this going to stop me, or am I going to move through it? Am I going to process it? But it seems very clear, like what you want is, honestly, I feel like the more traditional seeming, no matter what, by the way, your gender is, or like your sexual orientation, like you could have this kind of family life as well, no matter what. I just felt like for some of you, there was maybe some doubt there, and that could be where the cynicism comes from, of like, oh, well, like people like me don't get to have that kind of life. But again, that's just a product of what you've been brought up to believe is possible, maybe where you live or where you are, not the reality that you can create for yourself, right? And this is the reality you want to create. Is, for me, this is like flourishing, like a secure, stable relationship environment where you can flourish, you can grow, you can also nurture and care for others who can grow with you, even if you don't want children, pets, animals, you and your partner, yourselves, maybe even like a family like unit where you and multiple of your friends are like in community together and grow and nurture each other together. But I do feel like ultimately, yeah, it's like a marriage, family, maybe even for some of you, if you would have like a very traditional sort of heterosexual dynamic, it would be like one person stays home and takes care of the house, one person goes out to work, right? And whichever person you are, like, you want the other person to be the perfect counterpart to that. Or if it's not that exact dynamic, like, there's the idea that, like, maybe one person would have one role and another person would have another. Of course, I could also see it being, like, both people have equal roles or the same kinds of roles and execute them together. Like, it doesn't really matter what the minutia or the specifics of your dynamic is. It's just that you create the perfect, secure, loving dynamic for yourself and anyone else in your vicinity that you are caring for. There's a lot of caring for, there's a lot of happiness, there's a lot of security in this group here. That's what you want. And I feel like you might even be, like, deep down someone who's very interested in a traditional relationship dynamic. And again, by that I don't mean like I know that there can be a lot of baggage with that, because there can be, like, the idea that, oh, well, like, traditional relationships means that, like, the, like, wife, there's a husband and a wife, and the wife is subservient to the husband, and blah, blah, and, like, that's all, like, cultural conditioning and religious bullshit. And, you know, if that's something that, like, really speaks to you and, like, that's what you really want, but I'm not here to judge you. You know what's good for you, right? But I do feel like for most of you, you might feel like you want that kind of dynamic without the misogyny, without the gender, like, imbalance. Like, you want to disconnect and detach that kind of lifestyle from the darker elements that it has become associated with, and create your own life where that kind of traditional dynamic of, like, having, you know, a family and being in a unit where, like, maybe one person, like, goes out and works, one person stays at home, or, you know, whatever your version of, like, what feels traditional to you works for you without having, like, all the more negative associations attached to it, right? You want to create that in a beautiful way, as opposed to a way that is sort of attached to all these, like, old ideas about what relationships have to be. And for some of you, you might also feel like, you know, oh, well, I don't feel like anyone wants that anymore. Can I even find that? Because I feel like, you know, like, things like hookup culture, or whatever you want to call it, the current dating culture, the way that people are exploring dating and sexuality in a new way might not work for you. And you might have some conflicted feelings about that, right? Like, should I want what I want? Or should I want something that's, like, more, like, culturally of the moment, or even transgressive, or whatever? Like, some of you might feel conflicted about that. It's like, no, it's fine to want what you want, and you can definitely create a life that is truly for you and works for you, that does not have to have any of this negative cultural association tied to it. We're going to get into how, though. First, I do want to read the lyrics for Wonderful Life, because I feel like this sums up what you want. It's like, honestly, you want a beautiful, loving family life and partnership. And family life, you know, doesn't even have to include children if that's not how you define a family, right? Like, I feel like you can have a very unique relationship dynamic within the bounds of also a seemingly very secure and even, like, wholesome, like, maybe even for some people run-of-the-mill family, like, situation. You know what I mean? I hope that makes sense. But for Wonderful Life, like, it's like, yeah, you want to live a full, wonderful life with a partner or multiple partners or whatever in a secure environment, and, like, have that, like, you want to have that whole thing. And you want to believe that that's still possible in the world today, in spite of everything. And the lyrics are, "And all that I am, you let me be. I will remember you for all that you've done and given to me. Love will remain, this I concede, now and forevermore. Because of you, I believe. Now I believe. What a wonderful life for as long as you've been at my side." Yeah. And that's the thing, too, is, like, whether your relationship looks like the traditional kind of, like, family kind of thing, like, whether that's, like, ultimately what you really want, I do feel like you want the feeling of spending a lifetime in whatever way works for you and your partner or partners that is wholesome, is full of deep love, and is also a safe space for you and the people in your unit to live and grow and explore and be themselves wholeheartedly. right? Like, that's what you want. You want all of that. And it might look different for everyone here who's coming to this reading, but you want to live your whole life and look back and be like, wow, I've had this whole life with these people, this person, and it's been beautiful, and we've really been there for each other, and we've created we've like built and created things together. We've created a family, we've created a business, we've created an environment, a community that's beautiful and loving and happy and like everything that we wanted to be. And you are someone who also might be in your ideal like dynamic, your ideal romantic relationship might be open to building and working on a relationship, right? Like, you don't necessarily need it to come in like cookie cutter perfect. Like, you want to build with someone, you want to get to know someone deeply, you want to like create a life, create a home. I think for a lot of you too, you want to create a home and a living space. I think for some of you, your ideal dynamic is also very centered around your home. Like, you might want to specifically, like in the more traditional sense, live with your partner or partners, have a space that is yours, create that space together. That might actually be something that's really exciting for you if you really think about it. Like, you want to create a living space, even physically, like think about like what it's going to look like and how you're going to combine like all the needs and styles that come with, you know, having different people bringing their own desires to the table, right? How can you make that work? How can you both have a space that works for you, right? Like, you might be interested in that, and you might actually have fun, even if there's like differences that you have with your ideal partner, even if there's things that don't quite mesh, you might have fun figuring out with them how to make things work. Even just in like the day-to-day minutia of like where you keep the dishes and what cabinets are for what things, right? Like, figuring that stuff out. Like, that might be like peak romance to you. And that's so cute. I love it. Right? Like, that is where like the romance is for you in those moments. I definitely feel like there's a lot of focus on, again, just like that stable, loving, nurturing environment that you create with another person or people, and allows both of you to be completely yourselves and involves like building something together, building a foundation together. That's so cute. And yeah, definitely like long term. I feel like for you, for this group, whatever it is, you want to build something long term. You know, because that's not everyone's ideal romantic situation. But for you, for this group, if this is resonating, I do feel like that is what you want. That is what you want. And honestly, current like popular narratives you might see around dating and around love might not speak to that, and that is where you might have like these fears and doubts about what you can have. So let's get into some advice in terms of, if this sounds good to you, how we can start bridging the gap, processing these fears, and getting you ready to accept this and believe in it, right? Because I think some part of you already does, but you might just have these things coming up for you to address so that you can move forward with this. So let's get 4 cards to get more information on how group 1 can create this dynamic, this relationship with romantic relationships that is most desirable to them in their present. All right, 4 cards, please. Okay, first out, 8 of Blades reversed. We have 10 of Blades, Gem Carstairs, the Musician, which is also Temperance. I'm actually going to put it like this. Oh, all right, and then one more card. One more card, please. One more card. One more card. How can group 1? All right, and we'll take it. Oh, another Queen of Pentacles out here. Okay. Okay. I also want to say, with the Justice card being like, I didn't even necessarily initially mean for the cards that I used to show you the deck. to be like specifically tied to the message. I just felt called to do that after the fact. But with the Justice card here, that also speaks to me of like marriage and things like that. Like I do feel like marriage is in whatever way that looks for you is a big deal. That's important here. Marriage and also like a fair and balanced dynamic. So again, even if it looks like a traditional, like one person stays home and one person goes out to work, it's like, it's not the projection that anyone's subservient to anyone or like anyone's above anyone. It's about having like an equal dynamic where even two people bring different things to the table, but you're both bringing what you want to bring to the relationship, right? Whether that's what you want or not, like that's important as well as like a fair and balanced relationship where it's an equal give and take and everyone is happy and has room to be themselves and be who they want to be. So how do we get from here to here? Well, Eight of Blades reversed, setting yourself free of limiting beliefs, right? So noticing that your doubts and fears are just opinion, not fact. There's actually a specific quote coming to me that's like, but doubt was opinion though, not fact. And that's the thing, is that it's okay to have doubts, it's okay to have fears, but you don't have to take them too seriously to the point where you start to believe them, right? Because whenever you're creating anything in your life that you haven't experienced yet, you're imagining something without having the tangible physical evidence in front of you. And that takes faith, that takes creativity, that takes imagination, and you can imagine in all different kinds of directions. So if you find yourself frequently imagining in a direction that isn't aligned with you, you can shift that momentum and move it back towards the direction that is more for you and start creating those kinds of thoughts and moving on faith, right? Moving on faith that this, I'm telling you here, if you're hearing this reading and you're resonating with it, whatever, this future for you it's here because it is possible. It's here because it's honestly, for a lot of you, I feel like inevitable. It's really just a matter of like you not torturing yourself about it in the present and giving in to your fears. And I do feel like you are at the precipice with this Ten of Blades here of ending the cycle of getting in your own way about it and of holding yourself back about it. Like I feel like you really are done with that, and it's just a matter of letting you know that it's okay to feel insecure, scared, to hold back, to have bought into narratives that don't align with you, or to have experienced dynamics in the past or experienced other people's dynamics in your life in such a way that it causes you certain fears and doubts. That's okay, and it is also totally possible to acknowledge that, accept that, and work with that, and create something different for yourself, right? It's like you've got to be able to hold those two truths, like with the justice, like holding the scales and being like, okay, like both of these things can be equally true. Yes, there can be all of these things that I experienced and I've seen and I've witnessed that don't align with me, and there's also all these things that I want to see and experience and witness that also exist maybe already. So for some of you, if you get caught up in like fears and doubts about how relationships can look for you, you might be missing some of the examples that are already around you of things that have worked out for people, right? Relationships that have worked out for people. Even just reading stories where there's certain dynamics that fit what you want and like engaging with that in a way where it's like, okay, but like what if this was real, right? If someone's able to write this, why can't someone also live it? And to also open up to the idea that the path to the dynamic that you want it might be a little bit twisty, windy. It might not always look like what you expect it to look like. That does not mean that it's not working out, and that does not mean that you're going down the same path, quote unquote, as someone else who you don't want to emulate, right? You in the moment are able to create whatever you want, and you are taking back control to be a creator here. With this musician card here, you are, well, it's I believe it's the same number as the Temperance card. So Temperance, creating a balance, right? Creating emotional balance, creating, Temperance is like tempering your expectations in the moment, even in some cases for you, in terms of like, okay, like, just like someone might try not to get ahead of themselves and be like, oh my god, like this is, you know, like you might have to temper you might be tempted to temper some of your more fantastical like fantasies and ideas of what you want. But often we don't get as encouraged to temper the negative fantasies, the doom spirals, the catastrophizing. Temper that, you know? Temper that. Balance, right? You don't need to constantly go down the path of catastrophizing. However, of course, if you find that you frequently do, as always, I bring this up in a lot of readings, but that's because it's true, there might be options for you to address this specific situation head on with a professional of some kind if you're not already, right? If this is what you want and you feel like you need to work with someone to help you with that, you know, in whatever capacity, spiritual guidance, therapy, whatnot, like even just confiding in like people in your life who you trust. But again, like always coming back to your own intuition, always coming back to what you truly want and believe in and self-trust, right? The outside world offers us options of what to believe in. We get to decide what we actually believe in, right? And this card being the musician as well. First of all, Jem himself, this character here, is a very philosophical, creative, mild-mannered, but still with his own wants and desires that he's suppressed over time because he didn't believe certain things were possible in his story, right? He actually is a character who, spoiler alert, lives out at least part of a great love story. If you haven't read the books yet that he's in, The Infernal Devices, that might interest you as well. But like he does love deeply, he does experience deep love, and he didn't think that was going to be possible for him, but he was able to take that opportunity when it was presented to him to make that happen. He's also a musician, so in terms of like you being creative and creating your own art, making art out of your life, making this relationship that you want to create art, right? Even if you're already in a relationship and you are not quite feeling like it's in this dynamic because you have these fears that are maybe, for some of you, like obviously if you are in a relationship and it's not a good dynamic and you really feel like you need to get out of it, like that's totally valid. If it's a situation where you're just like, I don't know, like it might be like my thoughts and fears and projections like getting in the way of me seeing this person and really being with them, like start there, right? Like work with your fears and projections and name them and see what they are and see if you can shift them, right? That's always possible. You might even be someone who buys into the manifestation, creating your own reality thing. So you can create anything you want, you know, you can shift any dynamic, but that has to be, you know, for the people who are really, that's really what you believe in or really what you want to do. But it's like working with your own doubts and fears and seeing that as your own business that you can get help on, you can work with the other person on, you can be honest if you can have open up with, you know, the person that you're with about that and like work on it together, you can do that. But you can also just start, if that's too much of a step for you, just start with your own self, right? Start with your own, okay, what's going on within me? Can I create a relationship with myself where I can take care of myself through this and then trust another person to be there for me because I know how to be there for myself? And if I can trust myself, I can more easily trust another person, because sometimes that's where we need to start. Sometimes. And with the Queen of Rings, Queen of Pentacles here, I also feel like for a lot of you, it's embodying this Queen of Pentacles, which is kind of going along with what I just said, actually. So whether you are a man, a woman, or anything else outside of that, you can still embody a Queen of Pentacles energy. And that will bring in either a partner who fits that for you or will allow you to be that and embody that in the relationship you're in or in the relationship that you want to bring in. Because I feel like a lot of you really want to bring in like a nurturing energy, like, right? Like taking care of yourself, being someone who can take care of yourself and take care of other people. And for you, like a very real advice, first of all, also like listening to music might be important here. So like listening to, curating even love songs that fit the dynamic that you want, like curating a playlist of that, right? Listening to love songs and thinking, this is what I want, right? Because, okay, we'll come back to this in a second, but with the music thing, there's so many different kinds of like music songs about love out there, right? And sometimes it feels like that's all there is, just love songs. But not all of them are like love songs about love dynamics that you want, right? Like, some of them are like, I actually would definitely not want that. That doesn't sound good to me, right? So for you, it might help to notice what love songs really like capture your imagination. What ones like really feel like what you want. Get comfortable with being like more romantic and sappy with the things that you listen to and engage with, and get comfortable with that within yourself. Because if you are someone who's stuck with a lot of doubt, fear, and cynicism, you might be someone who's even uncomfortable with romance itself to a degree, because you're just like, it's not what I'm used to. It's not what I've seen expressed in my life. It's not what I'm used to expressing, right? Listening to music or engaging with media that is in that realm might help you get more comfortable in that realm, and then more easily invite it into your current relationship, into a dynamic that exists, or into your life in general. So, yeah. And like, have fun with it, right? You don't have to sit down and be like, okay, like I'm gonna sit down and only listen to songs that are aligned with my ideal future. Like, explore, be curious, like, have fun with it. Getting back to the Queen of Rings, Queen of Pentacles, taking care of your home life, taking care of yourself and your physical body in a way that will just help you feel cared for and healthy, no matter what situation you're in, right? Like, just brushing up on, what's the best, exercise routine for me if you have one, or what's best for my body? What kinds of foods am I eating? Could this be better? Could that be better? Maybe more mindfulness with myself, that kind of thing. And taking care of your physical environment as well, right? So, like, if you're implementing a new cleaning routine, that will help clear your mind and your house at the same time, right? Like, your environment can affect how you experience the world, and your relationship with how you experience your environment can shift your mind state. So, like, you might just need to do a little cleaning, like, or even just like beautifying your space. Like, imagine like, okay, like I would love to have a beautiful home life with, this other person or with myself. Let me like, bring in a plant. Like, I've always wanted a plant, and I was thinking, I would wait to get a plant until I'm like with someone, but like, no, like, get the plant now. Like, decorate your home how you want it to be. Like, figure out what your style is. Figure out what or not even figure out, just like feel it out. Have fun with creating an environment that feels like one that you would want to share with someone else, even if you know that when it comes time to do that, you probably will have to create a whole new one, and you probably are excited about that, right? But, that doesn't mean you can't start having fun with that now, and imagining what that could be like, and decorating your space accordingly, and cleaning your space accordingly, and all that. And if you are with someone currently, sprucing up your space might actually help with your current dynamic, if that's something that you both want to work on together. And if that's something that's fallen by the wayside, that might really help. But, yeah. I honestly think, like, there's just some mental blockages that need to be cleared, but it is it is mental, right? And that's not tangible, that's not physical, but it can feel so tangible and physical when you're caught in, like, doom spiraling and catastrophizing. If you are here, you are ready to let that go, right? Like, you are ready to start moving into a more optimistic outlook about what you can create for yourself. And it doesn't have to happen all at once, especially because the kind of relationship that you want to create, it seems like one that is, you build a foundation, right? You grow it over time. It grows and changes and shifts, but it's solid because you're all devoted to growing and creating and cultivating the relationship together, right? And if you don't know if you're prepared to do that with another person right now, starting that with yourself, growing like your relationship with yourself will get you ready to do that with another person. And if it's a matter of opening up to even just starting that process, like, if you're single right now and like you want to start that kind of thing, like, you can, you don't have to be fully free of all your doubts and fears. You don't have to be fully like healed or whatever. Like, you really don't. Like, you can have this experience along the journey of opening up to someone and building with them. But if you have your North Star and you know what kind of dynamic you want to create and you have an idea of where you're going, it can help you start to shift in that direction. And then if anything changes, if what you want changes, that's okay as well. You don't have to be married to this one path. But if it's like a matter of opening up to the possibility that this is a possible path for you that gets you out of this rut, then that's the most important thing, right? So regardless, beautiful energy, and I feel like a beautiful romantic life in your future if that's what you want. And yeah, I think that's all we've got here. So I hope that resonated. I hope that was helpful for you. And please like, comment, subscribe. I would love to hear how this resonated. And if you're interested in hypnosis or human design or personal tarot readings, we do offer those on our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com. Link in the description and the pinned comment. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful life. I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye! Hi Group 2, if you selected this gold bracelet with the 3 hearts on it, and the Mystic Mondays tarot deck, with the Knight of Pentacles here that was on the bottom of the deck, then this is your reading, and it is all about your relationship with romantic relationships. So I described what the reading will be like in the intro, but if you missed that, I already pulled most of your cards. We will get some cards during the reading, but I already pulled most of your cards to represent, first of all, the current relationship you have with romantic relationships themselves. So this could be like your projections onto them, or your current ideas about what they can look like, or anything that's coming up around the romantic relationships, that whether you're in one or not, whether you're looking for one or not, what's going on in there? What's your relationship with them? And then we're going to get 4 cards that represent your ideal. And this could be your current ideal, but it could also be an ideal that you're not even sure if you want yet, but like it might be a direction you're interested in, or whatever it is for you. Keep an open mind. We're going to explore here, and we're going to also have some song cards to clarify each group. And then I'll use the Shadowhunter Chronicles Tarot to get some advice in terms of how you can bridge the gap between where you're at and what you want, if it's different, or just advice in general to create the ideal situation in your romantic life, if that's what you're interested in doing. So let's get started, first of all, by laying out your cards. So starting with your... How did I do this in group 1? It doesn't matter. If it's a little different, it's fine. We're starting with your current energy towards romantic relationships. So first we have the 4 of Pentacles, the Princess of Pentacles, or the Page of Pentacles, the 7 of Cups, and the 3 of Swords. And for your... I'm going to lay down the ideal energies face down to start, and then we'll flip it over later. I also have song cards for you as well to help clarify. So for your current energy, the song that came out was The Horror and the Wild by The Amazing Devil. And then for your ideal energy, we got 2 songs, kind of. We'll talk more about it when we get to them, but we have Paper Bag by Fiona Apple. If you know that song, just hang in there. We'll get to it. We'll talk about it. And King and Lionheart by Of Monsters and Men. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. But we're going to start out with your current energy towards romantic relationships, like your current relationship, basically, with relationships themselves. What is going on there? Well, with the 4 of Pentacles, group 1 also had the 4 of Pentacles on the top row as well, and to me, that's usually a kind of holding back energy, but I also feel like for you, that's almost like a foundational energy. I feel like for a lot of you, your relationship with romantic relationships, whether you're currently in one or not, is one of building foundations. I actually feel like you might maybe even consciously have been building either yourself up or a relationship with someone else. You're like trying to set that up for success in the future. I do feel like for a lot of you, it might not be specifically in a relationship right now. Like you might be single with this Princess of Pentacles. You might have been working on building your own foundation first before you get into romance. But I also see I feel like there's definitely an energy here of something to prove. We'll talk about that in a moment. And with the Seven of Cups here, there might also be options. Like, you might be building yourself up in preparation for a romantic relationship, but you also might not be sure of what kind of relationship you even want. You might be the group that's like, I'm not sure what my ideal is, and I don't know if what will be presented here will match with that, or you might actually have a lot of different paths that appeal to you. You might even have a lot of different people that appeal to you. But I also see with the Three of Swords here, there's definitely something to do with heartbreak. It could be about opening your heart. So you might be in the process of opening your heart, and maybe for some of you, you've experienced a past heartbreak, and that's why you've been rebuilding your foundations. For some of you, rebuilding. For some of you, just building for the first time, whatever the situation is, and preparing to open your heart again. For some of you, there might still be some residual like heartbreak and pain and grief that you are processing that might be preventing you from moving forward as quickly as you would like to. With the Horror and the Wild, this is where I get that there might be some kind of fear here, or might have in the recent past been a lot of fear around relationships. And whether you've experienced them before and you've had heartbreak or you haven't, that might have been significant for you, and that might be, again, where you've been working on yourself. That's what I'm getting with the Four of Pentacles and Princess of Pentacles, is like working on yourself and maybe specifically, again, in this area, like preparing yourself for a situation. Some of you also, I'm not gonna lie, with the Princess of Pentacles, you might have your eye on someone specific, but you might also be contemplating whether you should keep your eye on a specific person or if you should open up your options. You also might be like, okay, I'd like a dynamic with a specific person, but like, what kind of dynamic? Like, what actually do I want out of this relationship? What is this going to look like? Do I want the same things as this person? Can I create, my reality the way I want it to be and include this person? That might be something that's coming up for you as well. With the Horror and the Wild, it says, think of all the horrors that I promised you I'd bring. I promise you they'll sing of every time you passed your fingers through my hair and called me child. Witness me, old man, I am the wild. So there's definitely a prove yourself kind of energy here as well. And I don't know if, again, you're proving yourself to a specific person in your life or in a relationship with, or if you are proving yourself in general to like maybe proving yourself to yourself, like that you're capable of having a romantic relationship that you want, or proving yourself to the world. For some of you, maybe you're not even sure if you want a romantic relationship at all, and you're really focused on the bag, and you're focused on proving yourself financially and with work, and you could actually be here not even sure if romantic relationship is something you really want, and you're like, what is my ideal? Do I have one? Maybe I don't even care. I actually feel like for a lot of you with this Knight of Pentacles, you might resonate with the Knight of Pentacles energy, like slow and steady wins the race. You're building yourself up, you have patience, right? And for some of you that might be representative of you, like you are the Knight of Pentacles, and like that's what you're doing and working on right now. You might also be interested in a Knight of Pentacles type person, right? Like someone who might be young, you might be young yourself, but still relatively established and also like ambitious, but also willing to work and take the time and patience to put in work to make a relationship work, make a job situation work. You might be someone who also moves very slowly in relationships, or you have up until this point. And again, you might be reconsidering your options about what kind of relationship you want. This one has a lot of different energies here, but I definitely think that the foundational energy is someone who's working on building their foundations, focused on some kind of goal or even person, has a deep desire to prove themselves in the area of romance, maybe through the work that they do. For some of you, you might also, if you are resonating so far and if you do want a romantic relationship, you might be focused on proving yourself to the world in some way because you feel like you need to feel worthy of a relationship, and like where you need to prove yourself to a partner, or you feel like if you want to get a partner, you have to like reach a certain level of wealth, reach a certain fitness goal that you have, look a certain way, act a certain way. For some of you, it could definitely be like you trying to show up people from your past who doubted you, even a father figure. That could be all tied into your sense of worth and worthiness, and that could be impacting your romantic life right now. Okay. So, if that sounds like where you're at, let's start looking at what your ideal is. Because I actually feel like, as I said, you might not be sure. Let's see. So we have the Three of Wands, the Four of Swords, the Four of Cups, and the Magician. I want to just backtrack actually to this top energy here, your current energy. I might have mentioned this, but I want to mention it again because I don't think I stressed it enough. For some of you, you might actually not be so focused on romance. Like, it might be, it could be in the back of your mind, or it could be something that you want, but you could have like primarily turned your focus to work specifically, to build yourself up in some way, because you, again, like maybe you felt like you needed to put work first, like you needed to get yourself situated in your career and in your finances before you approach that topic. So for some of you, like, that might not even be your priority right now, but again, like, it's in some way relating to how you approach your romantic relationships. Getting to your ideal. Three of Wands, Four of Swords, Four of Cups, the Magician. Well, I don't think this is the case for most people watching this. Take it as it resonates. One thing that is coming through is that this might be, for some people, like maybe very few people here, for some of you, you might not actually want a relationship at all. Or you might not need one, or your ideal life dynamic doesn't need to include one. But that's not for everyone, because there's also a very different dynamic that I'm getting here, that I'm going to get into right now. And I'm assuming, like, if that's the case, like, you're just kind of here for the vibes, and you kind of already know that, and you're down with that. And so cool, like, happy to have you. But if you're like, no, I'm definitely interested in one, let's talk about it. So Three of Wands, I'm getting like an ideal dynamic is like a relationship that you can take one step at a time. Like, I'm really looking at how these pillars here are just like like progressing one pillar at a time. It's like into the future. I feel like you are not in a rush. Like with this Nine of Pentacles here, you're very patient. You're someone who wants to take things slow. Ideally, you would be in a dynamic where that is okay and that is welcome, that you can go one step at a time with someone. And I also think that you want a dynamic that's ideally very peaceful, that's restful, that maybe even feels like safe, right? Like you can create a dynamic with someone where you in your body, I feel like for a lot of you, you might have, you might be familiar with the experience of like, just like not feeling very safe in your body, maybe experiencing a lot of anxiety, or in relationships specifically, you just haven't felt very safe. So your priority is really your safety within yourself and being in a dynamic that feels safe with someone else and creating a safe space for them as well. With the Four of Cups as well, in this case, she's meditating, right? She's very at peace, very relaxing. Like you want to relax. You want a relaxed dynamic. At least that is what's coming through here. Again, for some of you, you might not be sure. And so you might not even be sure 100% if this resonates. I feel like you might, no matter what, resonate with the idea that whatever dynamic you have, your relationship with yourself needs to be solid and you need to feel safe within yourself. So feeling safe within yourself could still mean that you have relationships that maybe even you don't need to settle down necessarily with one person. You could do whatever you want. You might have a lot of different relationship dynamics. It's like more about yourself, honestly, in terms of how you relate to yourself. So no matter what you're doing, no matter if you're like living a life where you're like out there traveling, or like with a partner living in a van, like going all over the place, or you have like multiple partners and you don't really settle down, or you have a traditional marriage and you settle down with one person and you have a family, like no matter what your dynamic is, you're focused on, do I feel safe in it? And it can look like anything. I think that's the other thing with this Three of Wands is that you don't necessarily want to keep your options open forever, and that you might find a situation or a person that works for you and you're down with it, but you want to feel like, you could pick any option, you could have any kind of life, and you could be safe because you feel safe within yourself. I really feel like you are very focused on your relationship with yourself, and you're creating a situation where whatever you pick if you pick just one kind of life dynamic for the rest of your life, you know that it's what you truly want, because you didn't pick it just because you thought that's what's safe and I won't feel safe anywhere else. You didn't pick it because you felt pressured. You didn't pick it because you felt like it was the only option presented to you. You picked it because you knew that you were brave enough and strong enough to go for anything that you truly wanted. Like, some of you might have felt in the past like you weren't strong enough or brave enough to go for what you really wanted, and so you might have honestly felt like you had to put pressure on yourself to like put yourself out there and really go for it, and like you didn't feel safe, right? You didn't feel safe doing that because you were putting a lot of pressure on yourself to get out there, but you weren't really going within. This is really prioritizing how you feel within, and from that space, knowing that whatever you choose will be right for you, and that you could have chosen anything, right? You had the freedom. You felt free enough within yourself to choose a path, choose a person, choose a lifestyle, choose from moment to moment even. Like, in the moment, you'll know what you want, right? In the moment, you'll go for it because you feel safe enough and connected enough with yourself that there's no need to doubt or overthink or experience anxiety in any way. You don't have to figure anything out, right? Maybe even processing like grief or pain or things like that has been your focus because you are creating the safety within yourself to know that you can move forward with any kind of relationship and you will be happy. And I really feel like for this group, it's not really an external kind of ideal that you're experiencing. It's like whatever you do experience in a relationship will be ideal because you will have created it within yourself first. Through feeling safe, through feeling connected with yourself. The magician here, like literally, you can manifest anything. You can create anything. It's like you pick something and create it. You can have it, right? And you don't have to necessarily limit yourself or narrow yourself down to one option, but if it feels easier to do so, or you feel like, yeah, you know what, I think this is what I want, like, go for it, right? But you're the magician, you create the scenario, you create the situation, and you really just want to know at the end of the day that whatever happens in your romantic life, you created it. You made it the beautiful thing that it could be. And mostly, yeah, you just want peace. Like, I feel like if there's anything that you don't want in a romantic relationship, it's something that is like a wild roller coaster of emotion where you are constantly like anxious and like it could be like a roller coaster, it could be like, but like a fun one where you're enjoying the ups and downs, right? You're enjoying the, like, even if there is something of like a push-pull dynamic in some situation, or like a even if there's a thing, even if you go through a lot with someone, right? It's like an underlying feeling of safety within yourself that allows you to enjoy it and feel safe enough within it to just feel empowered, really, in whatever you've created, and to know that you've created it, and to take responsibility for that. Like, I feel like that is the ideal, and it can look like anything you want. But again, I do feel like a lot of you are patient and willing to build this connection within yourself and willing to build something outside of yourself as well, whether it's, you know, a bunch of different connections or one very special connection or a bunch of very special connections, like whatever it is, you know, you want to be ready for anything. That being said, when we look at your songs over here, I feel like that also clarifies it a little bit more. So we have Paper Bag, first of all, from Fiona Apple, and it says, hunger hurts, and I want him so bad, oh it kills, because I know I'm a mess he don't want to clean up. I gotta fold, because these hands are too shaky to hold. Hunger hurts, but starving works when it costs too much to love. And it's interesting, because this did come out for your ideal, and I was like, really? But then I was like, you know what? First of all, messages come out in all different kinds of interesting ways. But second of all, who am I to judge of anyone's desires and what they want? This is where I feel like some of you might actually have a specific person in mind to be a partner for you. And it might be a situation where you are happy to go through whatever you need to go through with this person because you are patient, because you're willing to put in the work to be at peace with yourself and the situation. And your ideal might involve like shifting a dynamic with an existing person that might have not been ideal for a little while, right? And it might involve you feeling like, okay, I'm going to take time for myself and figure out how to be there for myself and how to invite in a situation with this person that is healthier, that is more what I want. For some of you, this song could also be emblematic of the idea that you're willing to go through highs and lows in relationships as long as you have a solid foundation within yourself of self-worth that you have been working on building up, that you want to maintain for yourself. Because we also have King and Lionheart. And this says, howling ghosts, they reappear in mountains that are stacked with fear, but you're a king and I'm a Lionheart. So you really want a partnership, if it's a partnership. That could be more than one person. And it could also be, in this case, relationships that sort of transcend the bounds of what romance is. Like, there could be people here who even identify on the aromantic or asexual spectrum who are just chilling and listening to this. And maybe you didn't think you'd get a shout out, but you are, because I feel like, if anything, this is where people who have, like, relationships that are sort of, like, in the gray area, or fit, like, the queer platonic definition, like, a really committed platonic relationship, like, even for those of you, and only take that if it resonates. Obviously, there's lots of different people here with lots of different desires, as emphasized by the Seven of Cups, but you might just, like, put more emphasis on, like, having really close, personal, supportive relationships, whatever sort of dynamic they end up being. And it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic. But I also feel like if you do want a partnership of some kind, you want one that will stand the test of time, where you can both go through difficulties together and go through wonderful things together and boost each other up, support each other, be there for each other. And you want to know that you can do that for yourself as well. And that's what you've been working on first, before moving into this space where you feel like you've got the peace within yourself to go through anything. And this can also indicate bringing in and inviting in partnerships where you do feel safe. Creating safety within your current relationship, or inviting in a partnership where you feel safe, you feel at peace, you feel powerful, and you're able to see, like, a potential future laid out for you. I know that might seem like a lot of different, like, there might be, like, a lot of different people here, again, with lots of different ideas about what works for you. And I think no matter what you resonate with, even if there is a specific thing that you have in mind that you want to create for yourself, the idea is it's more focused on you and your energy, and not needing things to be a certain way before you are at peace with yourself, right? And from that, beautiful relationships will blossom. I do feel like there's a lot of potential for very mutually beneficial, satisfying romantic relationships here if you want them. So let's get, I feel like you're already in the process of kind of, like, getting here, like, Bridget, like, you're in that process. Let's get any more information then from these cards, which could be advice on how to bridge it, but could also be just more clarification in terms of, like, what you're looking for. Let's just see. Let's get 4 cards to represent some advice on how to invite this level of personal peace in, and also, like, maybe even more information on what you're really looking for here. So let's see. We have the Ten of Runes. Okay. We have the 8 of Wands. We have the Queen of Pentacles and the 6 of Blades. King of Cups on the bottom of the deck. I don't know why, but that feels well, King of Cups, I guess. Okay, so remember when I said that some of you might actually have a specific person that you're focused on, that you want to create a dynamic with? 10 of Cups here, wedded union. Yeah, for some of you, that's what you want. And that, the rest of what I said still applies, right? Because even if you're creating a dynamic with someone else and you have someone in mind and you want, like, a wedding and you want, like, a secure, like, relationship with one person in the future, even if that is what you're bringing in, there's still an emphasis here on creating your own personal peace, and also, like, making sure that your dynamic with that person is peaceful and is a safe space for both of you, right? And it also, like, with the Magician here, like, yeah, like, maybe your ideal situation is one that you've manifested because you're like, I have this goal in mind, I have this person, I have this dynamic, I know what I want, and I'm going to create it like that. Like, your ideal, that's why it could be so many different things for certain people, because it's like whatever you have in your mind, you want to create that, you want to manifest that, right? And you want to open up to the possibilities of what could be. And with the Ten of Cups too, even if it's not specifically a wedded union that you're looking for, or a wedding or a marriage, that Ten of Cups is that like ultimate happy ending, right? Like that's what you want. And coming up as advice, it's like definitely like I think manifestation has really been coming up a lot lately, which is cool. Great. I love that you're all consciously creating your world. But like that's like living in the end, right? Living in your ultimate happiness and being able to live in that now, whether you're in the relationship dynamic that you want to be in or not, right? So like if you're already in a dynamic where you feel like that potential is here, but you're not quite like living it yet, inviting more of that Ten of Cups energy, inviting more of the like practicing like embodying like emotional fulfillment. You know, embodying like, yeah, like actually maybe what if I could have everything I wanted and I just gave it to myself right now and I just let myself accept that like that's possible and it's also happening for me, right? And that will bring things in a lot faster. For some of you with the Eight of Steels, Eight of Wands, again, if you do have a specific person that you're interested in and you're, say, at a distance, maybe you're not quite involved right now, or there are things that are barriers to your commitment to each other that you want to shift, or there's things in your dynamic that you want to shift, right? It's knowing that, first of all, like, these two people, like, they're clasping hands, right? They're working together. They're together in this, feeling like you are working with someone. So say you're calling in either a specific person or someone that you just like have a partner that you want to bring in, and it could be anyone, or you don't even know who they are yet, but you feel like there's someone out there for me, right? Imagine that you and that person are working together, whether you know each other or not, like the energy, you are both working together to bring each other together because you're both kind of like manifesting each other, right? You're both creating this. And that can help you feel less alone in the process. And it might actually make things go faster to feel like just know within yourself, like, yeah, we're both working towards this, whether you know the person again or not. if there's, you know, if just a general, like, whoever I'm going to be with is working with me to get here, right? What you want wants you. If you're in a dynamic with someone and you're looking to shift that and create more peace and more safety in that relationship and create maybe like a future where you can see the steps ahead and you can see like how you're going to get from one place to another, inviting more of that energy of like, we are working together. We are collaborators in this rather than being at odds, right? If there's maybe been a little bit of conflict. I feel like for most of you, you're not even in a relationship, but for those of you who are, and you've just been really focused on yourself in that relationship at the moment, like bringing the other person in and accepting that it's okay to open up to them and to work with them, and maybe they actually want to work with you on this too, and creating that dynamic between you might also help things progress faster. With the Queen of Rings, Queen of Pentacles was also out in the other deck in this position as well, of the other group. Taking care of yourself, taking care of your home environment, definitely very nurturing energy. Taking care of your finances for some of you, but I feel like it's really emphasizing like leveling up what you've already been doing. So leveling up your self-care routines, leveling up the ways that you have been being there for yourself, taking care of your body in particular, so that you can continue to cultivate the safe space within yourself. Because that's what the Queen of Rings is, Queen of Pentacles is to me, is like home-focused, self-focused, in that you're nurturing and taking care of yourself, but also very motherly, can and is able to and is willing to take care of others. But like, yes, self-sufficient, but not opposed to partnership with others. Self-sufficient, like it's the difference between like what, interdependence and codependence, right? Like someone who's ready to be in an interdependent relationship, you know? And if that those terms and that label resonates with you and what you want. And the Six of Blades over here, Six of Swords, that's moving into smoother waters. I just heard safer waters as well. So yeah, if you are someone who has struggled with heartbreak in the past, anxiety in the past, attachment styles are coming up as well. So if you've, delved into that and you've felt like you've dealt with like a lot of anxious or avoidant attachment styles too, trusting that you're moving into calmer waters, safer waters, creating again that ideal, that future of safety for yourself. that will be with you no matter what, so that you can more confidently move into and move through relationships, knowing that you are safe with yourself, right? Because that for a lot of people in this group might have just been the thing that you needed to focus on, is your own safety and security first. Or if you're already in a relationship, that might have been where your focus is at now, and that's still where your focus is at, what you're creating. And creating that for yourself will create a more solid partnership with your partner, and will create a situation where you feel more secure in your relationship because you're more secure with yourself. And it also will probably, like, I think there's even an element here of like, it's like once you create the safety within yourself, then you will know what you want, because it's almost like you had maybe in the past been too focused on like, what do I want? I don't even know. Like you were too, like, your nervous system was too dysregulated to really even parse it out. Like there were times when you were just so in your head that you couldn't figure it out, right? You might have even gotten confused at times with the Seven of Cups here and overwhelmed. And now you are bringing awareness and light and focus to that in a way that is processing it and allowing you to get more deeply in touch with, okay, this is what I truly want. And I feel like for some of you, there's even like, this is so focused on your internal state and your personal state, because there's like a lot of surprises for you in store in terms of like what you really want and what's really possible for you that you will get to experience once you open up to it, once you are really in that calmer state more consistently. And for some of you specifically, things like guided meditations about like attachment or relationships or security in relationships, hypnosis around that might actually help you to start to feel safer in a relationship dynamic, or in a love dynamic of whatever kind that you want to bring in. That will help you, again, like really connect more deeply with yourself and then go from there in terms of what you actually end up creating. Because I feel like the possibilities are endless. The thing that's emphasized most is really just like, can you feel safe within you? Can you, have that relationship with yourself? And can you trust that you can create whatever you want to create? A really strong partnership that can work for you, a bunch of partnerships, a lot of different kinds of relationships, whatever you want, really. This emotional fulfillment is here for you now, and it's here for you in some kind of relationship. Whew. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it for group 2. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope it resonated. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know how it resonated. I'm so interested to hear it. And if you're interested, we do offer hypnosis, human design, and tarot, personal tarot services on our website, sunflowerphilosophy.com. Link in the description and the pinned comment if you're interested. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful life. I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye. Hi, group 3. If you selected this gold I love you bracelet, hopefully you can see that, then you are in the right place, and this is your reading, which is all about your relationship with romantic relationships. So I did discuss this in the intro a bit, but how this reading will be structured is also, before I get into that, sorry, if you selected the Aleister Crowley Thoth Tarot deck with the Four of Cups, a luxury card, this is also your reading. So now getting into the structure of the reading, we will start off with cards that I've pre-selected to talk about your current relationship with romantic relationships, which could mean like your current expectations or impressions, or even elements of your current experience in a relationship. As I mentioned at the beginning, it doesn't matter if you're currently single or in a relationship or looking for one or not even looking for one. We're keeping an open mind here. The idea is that no matter what your current relationship with it is, you can always change that or shift your situation or shift your thoughts and ideas about romantic relationships if you want to, if that's something that is appealing to you. Because we will also get into what your ideal relationship with romantic relationships is like, or at least it doesn't have to necessarily match with an ideal that you already have. It could be a direction that you are interested in moving in or an option that you would like to explore. But just elements of what your preferred or ideal romantic relationship or idea of romantic relationships could look like if you are looking to shift into a new perspective on them based on what comes out here. And then we'll also use this Shadowhunter Chronicles tarot deck to get advice on how to bridge that gap if there is one, or at least advice or additional information in general regarding your romantic relationships. So we'll see as it comes out, but I'm first going to lay out your cards. So first we'll have your energies, or your current energies or relationship with romantic relationships. Up top, we have your ideal situation on the bottom, and this one had 5 cards that came out, so I'll put it like that. And then I did get a song card as well to clarify each one. So for your top song, we have Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen for your current relationship with romantic relationships. And then for your ideal relationship with romantic relationships, we have Rainbow by Kesha. And we are going to start with the top row here. So let me flip over your cards. We have Death. We have the Queen of Swords in reverse. We have the Queen of Cups upright. And we have Power with the 4 of Discs, or 4 of Pentacles. So right off the bat, you might have recently or be going through at this time some kind of transformation in your romantic life. For some of you, this could be a breakup of some kind, or a transition in your relationship that's going on now, or a transition in your life even. So just a big transformative period of your life. There might have been a lot of upheaval recently, or in the past, like, I don't know, recent time frame from a few months to a few years, depending on the person I'm talking to here. But there's definitely a transformation here. So something is shifting for you, whether it's being reflected in some kind of outer experience that you've recently had or that you're having, or if it's more of an internal process. With the Queen of Swords, this could be related to a mindset change, because that Queen of Swords is in reverse. So this could be a transformation in your mindset around how romantic relationships can look for you, or what you thought you wanted, or what you expected. Even in terms of your communication style in romantic partnerships. But this could also be about someone who's maybe gone through a transformation in terms of having gone through difficult relationships or situations in the past, and is now coming to a space where you're reconnecting with yourself in a new way and shifting your relationship with the kinds of things that you will come to expect in your romantic relationships going forward. So it depends for you what this transformation is and what it looks like in your life. But I definitely feel like there's some kind of shift in terms of how you relate to yourself regardless. With the Queen of Swords reversed, you may have gone from being in a very mental space, very much in a headspace of trying to figure things out, puzzle things out. You might have felt like romantic relationships were a mental game for you, right? Like something that you had to strategize about, or in order to maybe keep yourself safe, or in order to maybe get what you wanted. And that obviously that can go to extreme degrees, but I don't know if it was so extreme for you. In some cases it might have been, but in some cases it might have just been a case of just being really heady about it. And now we're moving into a space of, I feel, being more emotional about it, being more emotionally connected. And I do feel like for you, it's about connecting with your own emotions specifically, and your feelings about things, and listening more to that, because it feels like that might be part of the transformation you're going through, is going from being very much in your head to being more in your heart, to being more in your body, to being more in that emotional realm, which might have been something that was very uncomfortable or difficult for you in the past. And this is definitely shifting your relationship with power dynamics and how they might have played out in your past relationships. I do feel like either you or people you were involved with, or maybe even on both sides, or even if you haven't been involved with anyone, in your head, you might have struggled with the idea of power dynamics and how they play out in relationships, and maybe even had some difficult experiences in your past with power imbalances, with difficulties, feeling like you were empowered in your relationships, or even feeling like you had to it was a power struggle between you and a partner. And I definitely think that this transformation, whatever it is for you, is shifting how you see that showing up in your relationships. But I definitely think there was some kind of ending here for you with the Death card. Like something, whether internally or in your life, recently ended or has been going through an end or transition. With Hallelujah, to me, this can be like, I feel like a lot of times it's played during like very emotional scenes in movies. It can be a very bittersweet song, in my opinion. So there might be, I could see it being like the mourning of like a relationship, or even, this is probably not for most people, but for those for whom this is the case, I definitely want to acknowledge and give my sympathies to those of you who actually experienced maybe a passing of someone. That is a very difficult experience and can be something that it would definitely shift, especially if it was a romantic partner. It would shift your perspective on relationships and how you proceed going forward with your romantic relationships. But for others of you, it might have been a difficult breakup, one that was bittersweet, one that was hard to work out your feelings about, and that might have put you more in your feelings and maybe put you more in a space of, okay, like, how do I really feel about this? How can I work through this? Maybe in a way that you hadn't before in your life. And with the song Hallelujah, I also want to read the lyrics here. You say, I took the name in vain. I don't even know the name, but if I did, well, really, what's it to ya? There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter what you heard, the holy or the broken, hallelujah. And yeah, so again, with like the sort of bittersweet feeling, like the difficulty of maybe going through a difficult breakup or losing someone in some way, a bit of a mourning kind of feeling. But also for some of you, I'm also getting the idea that maybe, even if it wasn't like specifically a relationship, like there was definitely maybe some encounters that you've had with people that have really shifted your perspective and changed your life, even if they weren't strictly romantic, but might have like shifted your perspective on relationships in general and what they can look like and what they can feel like, and maybe like even opened you up to your feelings in some kind of way. It's sort of hard for me to pin down, but I almost feel like that's because right now for you, it's sort of hard for you to pin down where you're at and exactly what you think and what you feel, because you are in the midst of a transformation wherein obviously where you were is not where you're going, but you might not know exactly where you're going to land yet, or you might not actually be fully aware of what it is that you're moving towards, if that makes sense. I also want to point out, because we did the Four of Cups card is the one that was on the bottom of the deck for you guys, and while I was mostly using them as an example of a card from this deck, so you could, use it to select if you wanted to. The Four of Cups being the luxury card in this deck makes me think of, oddly enough, it makes me think of like the idea of settling. And I don't mean like settling, like people will use the term settling when it comes to romantic relationships, when they talk about just settling for like, okay, like, well, this person doesn't make as much money as I want them to make, but I'll settle, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't like the way that it's used sometimes. But I feel like almost it's like the idea of settling for less in the sense, not in the sense of like physical luxuries, but maybe in the sense of like how much emotional depth you can get out of relationships. So it's like you might have found yourself in the past, quote unquote, settling for relationships that actually didn't give you as deep of a connection as you truly wanted, but you thought because on a physical level maybe they gave you like the money and the status and the this and the that, or whatever things that a lot of people prize in relationships, even like security and things that like are definitely meaningful in some degree, but maybe not what you were looking for. And so you kind of maybe in the past found yourself settling a lot in those kinds of relationships without actually having the full connection that you really wanted underneath the surface, that didn't really have that much to do with, like more surface level things, we'll say. Like there's definitely like an exploration of your depths here that's happening in terms of how you're exploring your emotional life in a way that feels new, in a way that feels empowering, I would say. But maybe difficult, like I said, maybe difficult. Maybe it has been spurred on by some losses in your life that you've been dealing with. But I do feel like with also the fact that you chose the bracelet that just straight up says I love you on it. That's I almost feel like for me it's like you are there's some aspect of you that I feel like is opening up to something more emotionally profound with someone, and opening up to like a more direct like emotional like connection where like maybe like for example maybe the words I love you were something that was hard for you to say in the past, or you were a little uncomfortable with like displays of emotion and you're like I don't know if that's really for me, like I don't really want to get emotionally involved. Like maybe you were a little emotionally unavailable, or you were involved with people who were emotionally unavailable, or that's what like really drew you in, and you might be shifting in terms of how comfortable you are giving and receiving affection directly and openly in a way where you're not afraid to say things that you might have not really been comfortable with before, right? But all in all, whatever it is, I definitely feel like there's a shift and a transition happening in terms of how you approach and how you view romantic relationships. So let's start taking a look then at your ideal, or at least an ideal relationship that you could have with relationships, like where you prefer to move towards, or where we'll just see. We'll get into it. So we have adjustment in reverse, which I believe relates to the Justice card in the Rider-Waite-Smith. The Ace of Wands upright, the Prince of Swords upright, and then these two kind of came out together, so I'm going to put them like this. We have the Ten of Wands, oppression, and the Two of Wands, dominion. Interesting that that's showing up under the Power card as well. Oppression and dominion. This is interesting. Okay, wait, I want to move these up because I don't think you can see them fully. This is really interesting. So, with adjustment in reverse, you know what? I'm going to start with Rainbow. I'm going to start with the song. Rainbow by Kesha. I found a rainbow. Trust me, I know life is scary, but just put those colors on, girl. Come and play along with me tonight. And Rainbow is really a song about reclaiming your more childlike nature, reclaiming your innocence, reclaiming your sense of fun and enjoyment. And so I definitely feel like in the ideal like relationship situation, or in your ideal relationship to relationships, there is an element of fun and play. I feel like this is not without the acknowledgement, however, of the scarier or darker parts of life. That's what, with this death card up here, it's almost like something that's happened or something that you're going through is forcing you or has forced you to face that part of life. And so you will move forward in romantic relationships. It's almost like you can't, it's almost like in the past, if you were quote unquote settling for shallower relationships, you can't go back to that, right? Because of whatever you've been through, whatever you've seen, whatever you've realized, right? Whatever kind of change you're going through, you can't go back to the kinds of relationships that you used to have. You're not willing to change who you've become for anyone, right? To dim yourself for anyone. So even if you move forward in relationships in a way that's lighthearted and playful, there will always be a deeper part of you, right, that wants that something deeper. And so any relationship that you have, ideally going forward, will include that, and will include an element of that. I also feel like you're not interested in, you're interested in direct communication. You're interested in a relationship where you can be very open and honest about things with your partner, and also a partner who is open and honest with you. I also feel like you, with the Ace of Wands here, that almost reminds me of the Tower card, not gonna lie. And I'm getting a few things from that. One is a lot of passion, right? That might be an important aspect of a relationship where that's something that like there's not a lot of that up here, right? Like reds and yellows and oranges, but there's a lot more of that down here. I feel like your dynamic with your partner might, or partners, or whatever, whatever your ideal situation is, like this is more the energies, the semantics of it can vary, for sure, but like your ideal relationship to a relationship would be to be open to passion, to be open to adventure, more so than I feel like you might have been in the past. Maybe even open to surprises, open to things that you weren't open to exploring. You're looking for someone who can be with you on that level, who you can even also go through maybe difficult times with, because like I said, if you've gone through a difficult time with people in the past, or you've gone through difficult breakups or things like that, like you want someone who you can go through, like things can happen in your life that are hard, and you can go through that with someone and they can handle that with you. It's almost like you're looking for someone who's like a real like tough cookie who can handle a lot. And I don't know what that a lot is for you. I don't know if it's life in general, or if you feel like there's some aspect of you that is a lot and you're looking for someone who can handle that. But you do want that playfulness, you do want passion, you do want maybe even with the oppression and dominion over here, maybe like you want to play with power dynamics. For some of you, take that as it resonates. That could be something where you're like there could be, this is a romantic reading. We're not like really getting into the, more YouTube inappropriate side of things. But that's something that came up. So that could be something that, for some of you, if it resonates, is something that you want to play around with, like power dynamics and things. Like, even with this Prince of Swords, I could see that being, like, maybe something that you're looking for in a partner, or something that you want to explore within yourself is, like, like power dynamics, whatever side of that you want to be on, right? So take that as it resonates. But regardless, I do feel like you want someone who can handle a lot. Someone who's a tough cookie, someone who maybe even isn't like, someone who isn't afraid of things getting difficult. Because I feel like now, if you didn't before, maybe you always have, what it's like to go through some difficult things. And maybe in the past you either feel like you didn't know that and then you went through something difficult and now you are looking for something different in a partner because of that, or you used to try to separate yourself from some of the more difficult aspects of your life and went for people who were more lighthearted and a little more like quote unquote innocent, in the sense of not having experienced the hardship that you have in order to escape it. And then you realize, actually, I'd like someone who kind of knows what I've been through too. Like, I'd like to have someone who can meet me on that level and we can work through things together, because we're not afraid of that, because we've both kind of seen the harder side of things, seen the more difficult side of things. That's what I'm feeling here. Like, I it's almost like I really feel like you also, for some of you, want to, this is definitely not for everyone, but I definitely feel like for some of you, you might resonate with the idea as well of, helping someone else who's in the place that you have been in, come out of that place. And so for you, it might not even be about finding someone who can take you out of that place, or someone who's already gotten there. It's like being open to someone who's still struggling, because you've struggled and you're like, I can work with you. We can work together on this, as long as you're open to, growing through the darkness and coming out on the other side. If that's what you're looking for, like, you're willing to, I think, work with someone on that. So you would be willing to take on someone in a romantic relationship, in a romantic sense, who might still be in the midst of some kind of dark night of the soul or something difficult that they're going through, and work through that together. And then you'll both know how to do that for each other throughout your lives whenever anything comes up, and something that you're willing to work through with another person, right? Because this Kesha song is all about someone who's like kind of showing someone how to have fun again, showing someone the playful side of life, being like, hey, like, I know life is scary, I know we've both been through a lot, but like, I know how to have fun through that, I know how to enjoy life through that, like, come with me, let's figure it out together. that's what I'm feeling here. And so I'm getting the sense that there could be like, it's very interesting because there's like a mix of very soft and sweet and like gentle energy with something much more like much more, I don't know, like the opposite of that. The words aren't coming to me, but it's like, yeah, and you want a good balance of that in your relationship, where someone can be hard and tough, and like maybe even you want to be like a hard and tough person, or like a rock for someone, and you want someone else to take care of, or vice versa, or maybe you kind of want a good like interplay of that, right? Where you can, sometimes you need to be that person who is taken care of by someone else who's like, nah, I got this, you know what I mean? And then sometimes you want to be that person, and it's just like having both might be what you're looking for. So interesting. It's very different from the other two groups that I've done so far. So I hope everything I've said so far makes sense. I'm going to get some cards from this deck now to talk about how we get from here to here. Although I do feel like for most of you, you're still on this journey. So like you're kind of like the transformation is taking place no matter what. So the information that we get from these cards might just be additional clarification on like where all you're ending up in this journey. Like, I'm gonna ask it like this. What is going on with group 3's romantic relationships at this time, and how can they move in the direction of what they most truly want? What's in their best interest? King of Wands. Ace of Rings, Ace of Pentacles. The Silent Brother, which I believe is the Hierophant. Yes. Page of Rings, and then you got, 3 of Runes. Okay. 3 of Runes. Yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely getting the feeling that for some of you, whatever you thought you wanted at one time in your life out of romantic relationships is changing or has changed. And now you're like, maybe I don't, maybe my desires are shifting, and you might not know exactly where. You might still, like, even this, like, your ideal situation might not fully resonate yet. You might be like, maybe. Some of you, I feel like you're like, yeah. You're like, yeah, no, I know what that's about. And others of you are like, I don't know, maybe. Like, maybe I could get there one day, or some of you might just be like, no, I don't know if that sounds like what I want, but that might be like, you might be on the journey of figuring that out, honestly. So yeah, with these cards, King of Wands. I mean, King of Wands to me is all about like taking action, right? Okay, it's coming. Okay, it's coming through now. I feel like your relationship with masculine energy is shifting. Masculine and feminine energy, both of those, is shifting. Because I definitely see a lot more masculine energy down here than as opposed to up here. So your current energy that you're going through might have you, or might have had you, in a more like feminine energy state. And this is regardless of gender, doesn't matter. It's just the energies. But the more feminine energy state of like getting in touch with your emotions, getting in touch with like the intuition, the deeper parts of you, maybe even a spiritual like awakening in terms of like developing certain spiritual gifts or things like that, right? And so then your relationship to relationships is shifting in the sense that you might be coming more into your masculine energy soon, that in a way that will shift how you relate to people. And or you might be looking for a partner who has like a more masculine energy than you used to once think that you wanted. It's like either you are that person or the person, if there's only one person, right? If you are looking for a partnership in specific. I could see for some of you, maybe it's not even about a specific partnership. Maybe it's just about how you relate to people in a romantic context, and you might not be even looking for a solid partnership. That's only for some of you, right? It depends. You might be looking more to, with the oppression and dominion, I didn't like say it outright before, but what I was alluding to, I'm definitely getting like for some of you, take this as it resonates, BDSM vibe, okay? And I know there's a whole community, and I know that there's a lot of people who have great experiences within that community, and so that could be something that for you, you are specifically exploring. I know that's not going to be for everyone, but for those of you for whom that is the case, right, that might be something that you're like, I don't even know if I want a specific partner, but I definitely want to explore in this context and see what happens, you know? Which is great. That's totally cool. Part of your transformation might be opening up to parts of you that have wanted to relate to power dynamics in a different way and experience things like that and open up to stuff like that and like have at it, right? But if not, it might be more about how you relate to masculinity, whether within yourself or within a partner that you're looking for. But with the King of Wands here, as showing up kind of as like your advice, it's almost like there is definitely some way in which you will be taking the lead, or you might be asked to, depending on what you want, right? Because I did get the sense that you might be the one taking the lead here with this song Rainbow. Like, you might be open to taking the lead in a romantic relationship. So you're being asked to be open to being the one who takes action, right? Being the pursuer in a connection. Yes. Okay. That might be what's shifting. For some of you, you're shifting from a very passive state to a more active one in terms of how you approach romantic relationships, where you're like, okay, well, if the dynamic that I think I want in a relationship is shifting, maybe the kind of dynamic that you want is calling you to be a more active participant, to be someone who, like, you know, asks someone out or makes the first move, right? Or just is more active than you're used to being in that kind of situation. If you feel like you've actually had the opposite situation where you feel like you've been the active one and you would really like to experience someone like pursuing you more, then you are being asked to look at where you are, like, being that King of Wands now when you could be taking a step back, right? And like, are you jumping to action when you don't actually want to take that action because you feel pressured to, because you feel like, oh, if I don't do anything, no one else will, right? But that's not what you want. That's not the dynamic you want. You want someone to come to you. Again, this exploration of power dynamics, I feel like, is really important for you. And so you might be looking at where you're pushing yourself into making moves that you don't really want to be making. And you might be asked to explore your feminine energy more. And that might be what you're going through up here, where you're actually exploring that more and taking a step back from this. I could see it going either way, and you'll probably know which one is for you. But there's definitely, with the Ace of Rings here, like, you're definitely being encouraged to make or accept some kind of offer to someone or from someone, or explore, like I guess for you it will depend on if you have a specific person in mind, if you have a relationship that you're working on right now with someone, where you want to make some kind of offer or they want to make some kind of offer for you. Like, this definitely could be about even making a transformation in a relationship that you already have, where you're like taking things to the next level, or you're considering taking things to the next level with someone, right? Like making someone an offer in some way, or someone else is making that offer to you, and it will be like to move the relationship forward, you know, whether to start a relationship, to get engaged, to move in, whatever it is, you know. And I feel like that's something where, you know, you're being encouraged to, if you are, you know, wanting to be this active participant and you are wanting to make an offer, you're being encouraged to do it. But if you are not, like, if you are like, no, I'm not in that situation, that's not what I'm, like, looking to do right now, then you might be, let's see, what is this about? Because I feel like for a lot of you, that is what this is about. Like, there's some kind of offer that, okay, specific situation coming through. But for those of you for whom, like, you're not thinking about making or accepting some kind of offer in specific, if you resonate with the idea of having a past relationship fall apart or a past relationship break up, you might be contemplating your decision to walk away from something or someone else's refusal of you, whatever it was, that might be holding you back from action, from moving on in your current relationships or in future relationships right now. So you might be being asked to look at that and to examine that situation, to spend some time contemplating that, to really go within and see if you can let go. If there's something that's still causing you to hold on to that experience, whether it was the pain of rejection or the things that you miss about that relationship, however it ended, or regrets from the past where you maybe wanted to make an offer, but then you didn't, right? You held back. It's like, can you let go of the regrets that you have? Can you let go of those feelings of rejection? Can you let go of all those things that might stop you from making a move now in the present? Because over here with the Page of Rings and Three of Runes, there might be, well, for some of you, there might be like a friendship situation where you're looking to make some kind of offer here. And for some of you, it's more about like you are taking the ring, like you're taking your power back, right? Like you're taking the ring into your own hand and you're choosing what to do with it. You're choosing who to give it to. You're choosing what you want and becoming a more active participant, like I said, in your life. Like I do feel like this is something to do with your relationship with action in romantic relationships and how you take action or how you don't take action. And it definitely could have to do with friendship. It could have to do with casual relationships. It could also have to do with, like if deciding what kind of relationship you want to have, whether with someone specific or with people in general, right? Like when I was looking at your ideal relationship situation, I was saying like I wasn't really sure what kind of relationship you were looking for here. And if you're not sure either, part of your exploration of yourself and the things that might be holding you back from taking certain actions in your life is actually exploring, what do I really want, you know? Like, what kinds of relationships do I really want? With the Three of Runes here, I definitely feel like this is my group where you might be stepping outside the bounds of society for some of you, right? So, like I mentioned, like BDSM is something that's still more of a subculture or counterculture in this current society, but if that's something that you're interested in, like, you know, stepping into that might be, you know, a process of, you might be sweating a little bit over like whether or not you want to take that step or not, or like if you want to go in on a more like casual relationship dynamic with people, or if you're like looking to explore polyamory, which is kind of what I'm getting from this Three of Runes card as well. It's kind of like you deciding that it's okay for you to explore those things, and to play around, right? Like that might be your ideal, is honestly to play around with different options, to play around with things that might have been outside of your comfort zone once. And it could even be within the bounds of a more traditionally acceptable, quote unquote, relationship. But if that's outside of your comfort zone, it still might feel like you're stepping out in some way, right? Like for some of you, there could be even some kind of like religious oppression that you might have experienced wherein you didn't feel free to explore relationships in the way that you wanted to, regardless of what that looks like for you, that you are being asked to examine so that you can let that go and be more playful about it, right? Be more open-minded about the experiences that you're going to be able to have. Also with the song being Rainbow by Kesha, I didn't mention this before, but it did come to mind. For some of you, you might be in the LGBTQ plus, etc. community, and you might, or you might be open to exploring that kind of thing. So that might be also where you are that might be part of the transformation you're going through in terms of like recognizing like that your identity is a little bit more expansive than you thought it was, and considering new options, considering new kinds of people, new kinds of relationships in that vein. And that would apply here as well with you shifting your relationship, even with, like I said, like masculine and feminine energies, you also realizing like, oh, okay, like maybe I'm a little bit more flexible and fluid than I thought, right? And you deciding that you're going to take things into your own hands and decide what you're going to do with yourself, like what you're going to do in terms of romantic relationships, like, right? Like, you get to decide, okay, like, here's how I'm going to play around with it. And when I said, like, this bottom half, like, representing your ideal in terms of romantic relationships, you know, it's more like your energy towards it. So it can look any kind of way. I did mention that. But it's also the idea that this could serve as a North Star to move you forward, to move you in a positive direction, in more of the direction that you want to go in. And through that exploration, your ideal could shift and change, but it's almost like this is like your next stop in terms of like how you begin relating to romantic relationships in a different way. And I definitely feel like whatever it is, no matter if it's inside the box for someone else, it's outside of the box for you. But you're also like, I want to have fun. I want to be playful. I want to have a good time. And like I mentioned before, like, you're looking for depth within whatever connections that you have, whether it's casual or not, because I think for you, because this will be outside of the box for you in some way, outside of your comfort zone, even if it's casual relationships, even if it's like not even necessarily quite romantic, it's going to still be deep to you. It's going to feel like a very like emotionally deep experience because it's something that you haven't experienced before, because it's outside of the box, because it's you opening the door to new possibilities for you. So I think you can't really avoid the aspect of these relationships that will for you be deeply meaningful, no matter if it's not like on the outside or to people who are looking in, no matter if it's not like, oh wow, you like, you know, settled down and committed to life to this one person. Like, if you have a bunch of casual relationships, that's still going to mean a lot to you. I feel like it's still going to be very meaningful in and of itself through that experience. Like, there's definitely a very spiritual energy in whatever kind of exploration you're doing, no matter if it looks one way or it looks the other. So, yeah. And for others of you also, like, you might have like multiple options, or like you might be being encouraged to explore your options, or just be open to like, oh, like, you know, I be open to like the different kinds of people that you could, with the also with the being open to different kinds of people that you could engage with and different kinds of ways that you could engage with them. Let's see. Anything else? This is so interesting because from where it started out to where it went was quite different. And yet, I still stand by what I said in terms of this bracelet having the I love you on it being very direct, because I do feel like regardless of what kinds of relationships you're engaging with, there is a level of directness that you are going to have to be with people in terms of what you want, what you're looking for, how you feel. And I think that's what you're inviting in, is you are able to open up and be direct about your feelings and your thoughts and what you want out of something, and the other person or people that you're engaging with will also do the same. That's what you really want to invite in. That's what you're interested in experiencing, which makes sense as well, because if you do have a like dynamic that's outside of the traditional quote-unquote structures, there is often, I feel like, probably more communication that needs to go along with that in terms of like what all is going on, right? Because we don't have as many culturally uniform scripts that people can just like fill in the blanks with. I mean, I feel like direct communication is important no matter what kind of relationship you have, but especially, and in general, if you're stepping outside of the bounds of what you've known previously, you know? The last scenario I'll also put out there is if you've, been single for a long time or maybe forever and you're contemplating starting a relationship for the first time, even that, right? That's stepping outside your comfort zone. That's like, okay, how do I do this? How do I communicate? And being open and willing to be direct and being open and willing to communicate honestly and have someone else communicate honestly with you is key as well, especially when you're first getting comfortable in a new situation that you haven't been in before. And it might feel hard and it might feel difficult to leave behind the life that you knew, right? Because there's definitely an element of whatever your situation is, you're leaving behind, you've left behind some kind of lifestyle or version of you or situation that you knew. And willingly or not, you've had to shift and transform your identity almost completely. And whatever you're seeking now, it's going to require an adjustment period, but it's definitely something that I feel like could be very fun and very rewarding at the end of the day. You're definitely looking for more, whatever that means to you. So that's pretty cool. And I think that's all we've got. So I hope that resonated. I hope that was helpful. Please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know how it resonated. I would love to hear about it. And if you are interested, we do offer personal tarot readings on our website, as well as hypnosis and human design. That's sunflowerphilosophy.com. Link in the description and the pinned comment. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye. Hi, group 4, if you selected this heart necklace and the Dungeons and Dragons tarot deck with the Page of Strength or Page of Wands card that was on the bottom of the deck, then you are in the right place, and this is your reading all about your current relationship with romantic relationships and also what your ideal relationship with romantic relationships could look like. So we're going to explore aspects of what could be going on in your romantic life right now, but more so where your head's at, where your beliefs are at, maybe how you're relating to romantic relationships and the idea of them at the moment, so you can see where you're at and also see if there's any adjustments that you want to make. And we'll look into your ideal, which could just be a direction that you're headed in for now, or a path you want to explore for now, or just a new way of looking at romantic relationships on the whole. We'll explore that when we get the cards. And then I'll also take some cards from the Shadowhunter Chronicles tarot deck to see if we can get advice on how to bridge the gap, if there's kind of a gap there between your current energy and where you want to be, or just get additional context and advice depending on what the energy turns out to be. So this has been a very interesting reading. I've had a lot of fun exploring everyone's dynamics here, but I'm going to start by laying out your cards, first of all. Let's see, we've got the 4 representing your current energy, 4 representing your ideal energy, and I also have song cards. So Iodine by Icon for Hire goes along with your current energy, and Learn to Let Go by Kesha is going to go along with your ideal energy. So we're going to start with the top row, and I'm going to flip over the cards and we'll get into it. So let's see, can you see them? Yeah. So we have first the King of Wisdom, or King of Cups. We have 9 of Charisma, or 9 of Pentacles. We have the 3 of Wisdom, or 3 of Cups. And we have the Justice card. And with Iodine by Icon for Hire, we have the lyrics, I can't make reality connect. I push till I have nothing left. But if we want to wake up, why we still singing these lullabies? Okay, so interesting. I feel like you have... For some of you, you might have a very clear idea of what you want in a romantic relationship or what you'd like to explore, but you might be having some trouble actually making it happen, right? Actually connecting with that in real life. Like, you might be someone who's had your fair share of fantasies, had your fair share of ideas of how things could go. You might even have a relationship that you're currently in. I mentioned this in the beginning, but it doesn't matter if you're single or in a relationship or looking for one or not looking for one, or kind of open about whatever you're willing to experience. It's kind of, it's this reading is for everyone, just anyone who wants to explore where they're at in terms of romantic relationships. But even if you're in one right now, you might have trouble, like, connecting what you imagined a relationship to be in your head with what is actually happening in front of you. And not necessarily even in a negative way, but maybe in a way where you're just still fine-tuning, like, how you feel about your life and romance in general and how you want it to look. Some of you might very specifically have a person in mind, even if you're not in a relationship currently. It could be, for some of you, like friendship related. So this could be something to do with your friends' romantic relationships. Like maybe for some of you, you really admire relationships that people around you have, right? There's certain people in your life who maybe have really good relationships or ones that you want to emulate, and you yourself don't have them yet. So like you could be like the last friend in a group of friends who already have like long-term partners. Or if you're later on in your life, maybe, most of your friends are married and you never did, or you are divorced and maybe looking for someone new, and you want to have a relationship that's similar to something that people in your life have, and you're looking to ground that, but you're not really sure how at the moment. It seems like you definitely have a good idea though of what you want, and like I said, for some of you that idea is also revolved around a specific person. I don't know if this King of Cups represents you or that person, but it definitely could. I could see this being kind of almost like your ideal partner in a way, or your ideal of how you show up for people in romantic relationships, in terms of like the King of Cups I see as, well, and also being the King of Wisdom, someone who's very wise. I would say the King of Cups is definitely a protective energy, but not in the necessarily quote unquote like hyper masculine, like, oh, I gotta go out and fight for you. Like maybe someone could be like that too, but it's more like emotionally protective and emotionally available and safe in that way. And with the Nine of Charisma, there's also an independence here. So I feel like this is your energy wherein you're steering your own ship. Like you might be someone who's very comfortable on your own. Maybe you've got your own, like I think regardless of what your situation is, you're not necessarily looking for someone else to support you in some kind of way. Or at least you feel like you don't need that, even if it might be nice. And you are you're looking for someone else who can kind of meet that level of independence, in terms of at least, like I think, like I said, with this King of Cups, like this King of Cups is like someone who's very emotionally secure within themselves. They don't necessarily need a lot of emotional caretaking. It doesn't mean that in a, committed partnership, both of you won't be available to take care of each other's emotions. But it's not like a situation where one person is relying entirely on another person emotionally. Like it's not, like where it's like, oh, I don't know how to take care of myself emotionally. It's like both of you kind of know how to do that, even though like through life there's nothing wrong with going through hardships where you do lean on each other, right? But you're able to do that from a space that that you're both comfortable in. And I feel like that's kind of what you're looking for, and that's, I feel like, what you see other people have, or at least you perceive other people to have, and you just don't know how to ground it for yourself yet, or at least it hasn't quite grounded for you yet. I almost feel like you might be more hard on yourself than you need to be. I mean, you don't ever need to be hard on yourself, but you might be like really hard on yourself in terms of like, oh, like why hasn't this happened yet? Like why can't I seem to like, find this person, or why can't I seem to make this work, or why can't I seem to like bring this dynamic into my relationships? And I don't actually think that you're doing anything wrong, or like I think you're actually quite you're quite clear on what you want. It's just a matter of allowing it to happen and allowing the time and the space for it to come in. With the Page of Wands being your card over here, there's definitely like I just heard spice of life, but there's definitely like an appreciation for like the day-to-day tasks, like taking care of, like maybe even cook. Maybe for some of you specifically, you actually like to cook or something, or you're looking for someone who likes to cook. But also it's like, you take care in whatever you're creating. So if you're creating a romantic relationship in your life, you put time and effort into it. You do put thought into it, and you do want that to be something that you can do in a relationship, that I feel like you want someone else to be able to bring the same kind of thing to the table. No matter what it looks like on the outside, you want an equal, fair, and balanced partnership. And yeah, and I really feel like you value your independence, and you don't necessarily feel like you need anyone, but you would like someone, I think. And I think there might even, one of the reasons why you might feel a little hard on yourself is sometimes you might almost feel like you want it too much. And you feel like if you are this like really strong independent person, that you shouldn't want like a romantic relationship so much. But that's, or that like the fact that like maybe like for some of you that's like the last thing that you've wanted in your life that you haven't experienced yet in the way that you wanted to, and you feel like a failure because of that. For some of you that's a really strong word to use, but for others of you that might be how you view it. And yeah, I definitely feel like that is it's a misjudgment on your part, for sure. It's not at all what's actually going on. But you might be someone who gets in your head sometimes. You might be someone who even deals with certain mental health issues or things like depression and stuff like that. The song is called Iodine. It is about mental health struggles, and it is about going through cycles again and again. And you might have felt like, because with these cards here, I actually don't feel like that's not in your relationship with the romantic relationships right now, in terms of like, you are not creating from that standpoint, but that might be where you get in your head sometimes and think, oh, can this ever happen for me, because I feel like I'm stuck in this cycle, or like maybe you feel like you're not this King of Cups in the way that you want to be. Maybe you're afraid that you will be emotionally dependent on a partner and you don't want to be that person. But I feel like that's not, like, I don't want to say it's a non-issue in a way that sounds like I'm dismissing your concerns and your worries. But I actually think that if you're able to get out of this headspace about it, you would see that it's actually not, it's not as big a deal as you think. And it's not something that's blocking you. Like, I feel like you might feel blocked from this kind of experience, but I don't think that you are, actually. I think that you're well on your way to creating what you want in your life, which is very interesting. So let's learn more about what it is that you want. Because this is a group where I feel like you're actually, like, you're on your way there. Like, you're establishing let's get into these cards down here. So for your ideal relationship with romantic relationships, we have 6 of Strength, so 6 of Wands. We have the 10 of Charisma reversed, so that's 10 of Pentacles. We have 2 of Intelligence, that's 2 of Swords, and we have the World. Interesting. Wow. So, first of all, 6 of Strength. It's like victory. It's also recognition. Like, I feel like what you really want, you might be someone who's like really, you'd really like to have a relationship that you can show off. And I don't even necessarily think that's like, I don't think for some of you, maybe you're looking for like a trophy partner. But I think for a lot of you, you might just want to be like, hey, like, oh my God, like, I have this really cool person and they're in my life and they're my person, and like, look at this, and like, you know, have a relationship that looks great on the outside to others, because it is. I feel like you want, maybe even, like, maybe you want to have a wedding, maybe you want to get married, maybe that's something that you want to experience, not just because you want to find someone that you're partnered with, but because you actually want to, like, have the wedding. Like, you want to have a celebration. With the 10 of Charisma, or 10 of Pentacles in reverse, though, if it was upright, I would say that that's, like, a card where you're, like, looking for a long-term, lifelong partner to grow and create and settle down with. The fact that it's in reverse, I don't know, this might sound a little weird to some of you, but I guess if you're hearing it, it's resonating, then it'll work for you. You might not be looking for like you might not feel like you need, like, you might be down with the idea of like, oh, like, I would love to have a relationship I can show off to people, or a romantic partnership that I can show off, but you might not feel like you need, you might not, at least might not be in a rush to settle down. You might not be in a rush for marriage. You might honestly want to keep your options open. And if this doesn't sound like you, there's 2 things I'm getting here. One thing is, if this doesn't sound like you, this top row might be actually what you want and what you're looking to bring in terms of like you know what you want, and that's what you're creating, and it's really just a matter of shifting from this sort of darker mindset to this lighter mindset. And your ideal might actually be like, it's almost like this, you might be quote unquote too attached to a certain outcome, and that's getting you in your head and getting you down. If you were able to let go of that specific vision of what you think you want and open up to different options, or open up to okay, well, could I be okay with something else? Like, could I be okay with something different? Could I be even interested in something different? That might, like, free you up to let go a bit more, and also might help you create actually what you're looking to create in the first place, right? For others of you, you might actually find that you want to keep options open. You might want to have a choice. You might want to have a relationship where you aren't so settled down, or even have multiple experiences. With the World card, you might, for some of you, want to actually, like, experience the world, like, experience, like, a whole lot of different kinds of situations, you know? For those of you who were, like, feeling like, oh, I need to settle down, I want to have a relationship like my friends have or whatever, it might just be a matter of, like, accepting where you're at and being like, hey, maybe you're happy with this. Maybe you're putting pressure on yourself because the life you're living isn't like everyone around you, but maybe you don't want what everyone around you has, right? You know what I'm saying? Can you discern if what you're looking for is what you're looking for because it's what you truly want, or what you're looking for because it's what you think you should want, right? That's why I was almost feeling like this sort of depression. It was like, it's definitely a lens that you might see the world through at times, but it's not true, you know? It's not true that you are a failure at, like, living the right kind of life, right? You might just want to live a different kind of life. You might just be on a different timeline or have a different desire than is expected of you or than other people around you have. And part of that might be related to having relationships where you're not settled down and you're able to maybe even, like, more casually exploring, or, like, you want to travel maybe. Maybe for some of you, you want a life where you can just, like, travel and you don't have to be settled down, and you like that single life, and you're like, yeah, it works for me, right? If that's where you're at, like, if you are single. If you are currently in a relationship, it could be more about not putting pressure on your relationship to be at a certain place where it's not ready to be, right? So for those of you who are in a relationship, who have stuck around this far, it could be more about you feeling like, oh, well, like, my partner and I aren't married yet, but, like, all of our friends are, right? Or my partner and I don't have children, but all of our friends do. Like, everyone around us, even if you're like at an older or later stage in life, you know, everyone around us has hit this milestone and we haven't yet, right? Putting pressure on yourself to catch up, keep up, quote unquote, with others, where that just might not actually be what you want, right? Like, you might not actually, in your partnership, need to be where everyone else is. And if you can maybe look at your situation as a choice that you've made. That's the thing. I think that's the thing, is that some of you need to zoom out and be okay with, like, your current situation, because by looking at it as a choice that you've made. So if it's like that you're single, it's like, well, I've chosen that, right? Or it's if it's like you're not where your friends are in terms of their relationships, it's like, that's a choice that I've made, right? Your ideal relationship with relationships, no matter where you're going with it, it's more about feeling like, okay, I made the choice. I wasn't pushed into any one path. I wasn't narrowed down to, this is the way things have to be, this is the way my life has to look because everyone else's does. I made this choice, and it can be the choice that everyone else around me made, or it can be a different choice, but, like, it's up to you, basically. And so it doesn't even matter what you really choose. That's where it's so interesting, because I almost feel like this ideal for you isn't necessarily about an ideal situation. It's about you recognizing where your desires are coming from, and where they might be coming from places of pressure, or be disingenuous, or be because of what someone else wants for you, where you were, like, realizing that you're like, oh, I was looking for this to sort of, like, show off, or to give off a certain kind of vibe, or to look a certain way to my friends, but instead of making my decisions based on that, I'm making my decisions based on what feels complete to me, what feels right. And I'm acknowledging that I am whole and complete in the moment, no matter what my situation is. So yeah, it's kind of similar to like group 2. It's like different vibes, but it's similar to group 2 in that I feel like this is more about your relationship with yourself, and how you do or do not put pressure on yourself to be at a certain place in life. That includes your romantic relationships. And so it's you taking back your power in terms of, okay, no one else or no society decides where I should be and what I want. I make that decision. And I know what's best for me. I also didn't get into Learn to Let Go by Kesha yet, so let's read the lyrics. It says, I think it's time to practice what I preach, exercise the demons inside me, gotta learn to let it go. The past can't haunt me if I don't let it, live and learn and never forget it, gotta learn to let it go. Yeah, I feel like with Iodine up here, for some of you, maybe you did go through some kind of past breakup and you were really fixated on like a specific person in terms of, oh, if I can't have, like, the life that I wanted with that person, then I can't have this life at all, right? Like, you felt like it was reliant on, like, a person from your past who just, if things didn't work out there, then you can't move forward and you can't have what you want. And I also feel like there might be a dissonance in terms of how you see your reality and what you would say to other people, like, other people in your situation. What advice would you give them? Take that advice, right? And I feel like you probably know that, but you might have had trouble connecting that. You might have had trouble connecting with, okay, like, yes, the encouragement that I would give to other people who might be feeling the same way that I am, I can take that advice. I can let go of the past. I can move forward on what I want to do. I can see that wherever I'm at, if it's different than what other people have, is still equally valid. And it's something that I can see as a choice that I made, and I can always make different choices as I move forward and as I discover what I want, but it's ultimately more about me and what I truly want, and not putting pressure on myself to have things that other people have that might not work for me. Which also applies, again, if you are in a relationship, even a long-term one that you've been in for a long time, even a long-term marriage that you've been in for a long time. Sometimes you might fall into that trap of seeing someone else's relationship and saying, oh, why don't we have that? Why aren't we like that? Why don't we do that? All those kinds of things. And becoming dissatisfied with your situation, even if you weren't before, right? It's that comparison thing. And so noticing that feeling of inadequacy or insecurity or maybe even shame sometimes, depending on what, you're looking at and judging yourself up against, realizing that comes from a critical voice inside you that isn't necessarily aligned with the truth. That just because someone else has a story or a dynamic that you think is really beautiful, it doesn't mean that your dynamic and your story isn't just as beautiful. It's just different. And if you want to incorporate elements of someone else's story that seem beautiful to you into your story, you can do that. But don't just do it because you want it to look good. Don't just do it because you want it to appease, like, the part of you that's, like, feeling, like, inadequate, or, like, your relationship is inadequate, or, like, oh, I'm not good enough to have the kinds of dynamics that other people have. Like, why can't I do that? It's like, you can. Envy, jealousy might be a thing. Like, you might have experienced some of that, it might, and a lot of people wouldn't want to cop to that because those are considered kind of like ugly emotions, but like we all experience that from time to time. It's just an energy, you don't have to identify with it, but you can also acknowledge that you feel that way sometimes. And you know that you can let go of that if it's stopping you from moving forward and being satisfied with your life and with what you have. And realizing that, again, you can make the choice. You can make the choice on what kind of story you have, right? No matter what's happened in the past, no matter what you're looking at outside of you, no matter what other people think that you should do, because some of you might have people telling you what they think you should do. No. I think what you're letting go here is a lot of different kinds of things. And it could be the past. It could be this, like, really harsh judgment that you have on yourself and judgment that you have on your reality that you've created for yourself and the distance that you see between what you want and what you have. But it's also letting go of, like, letting go of just erroneous beliefs about what you should and shouldn't have created for yourself, right? Like, that's what we're talking about. And so I feel like that's why this 10 of Pentacles is in reverse here, because for some of you, it might be very literally, you know, that's actually not the kind of life I want. I don't want to, like, grow old with someone and create, like, a beautiful foundation with someone, even though that's a beautiful story. It's just not my story. And you need to hear that that's okay. And for others of you, that might be part of your story, but you need to hear that, you know, that doesn't have to be the end-all be-all of what you're about in your life. And just because you haven't created that yet for you, you're not a failure. You can always create that. You can always choose that. But you can also be satisfied with, hey, like, the life that I've created for myself thus far is still pretty cool. And, like, it's my own kind of thing. And whatever I do from here on out, it doesn't have to look like my friends. It doesn't have to look like anyone around me if I don't want it to. You get to choose. I think it'll be important for you to feel like you chose whatever it is that you created. And I do feel like part of your ideal is being recognized for that. So I think it's no matter if you're getting married to someone and having a relationship that other people recognize as quote unquote legitimate, or if it's just being recognized for, like, hey, you are cool just as you are. You know what I mean? Like, the milestones that you've hit might not be the ones that other people, or even in your own relationship, you know, the milestones that you and your partner have hit might not be stuff that people recognize or celebrate outwardly, but that doesn't mean that you can't celebrate yourselves, that you shouldn't be celebrated, right? And also, you know, maybe you do want to be celebrated. Like, maybe you can create opportunities for yourself to be celebrated and recognized, right? Have a party, you know, throw a party for your, you know, the anniversary of the first time you and your partner met, even if you're not getting married. It's like, well, come celebrate us. Anyway, you know what I mean? Okay, I'm gonna shuffle up these cards, and we're gonna get more information on, like, how we can maybe bridge the gap between this, like, really, I think this iodine song, honestly, I think it's like saying that you might mentally be disconnected from your true reality, and I think your true reality matches closer to what you actually want than you realize. And again, it's just like this kind of veneer of, I mean, it could be if it's like really like mental health struggles and stuff, you know, listen, we all go through that kind of thing sometimes, and if you are, you know, getting help for that, that might lift on its own. That might lift with, you know, some time. It might also take some steps for you to move through that, but just know that it's not the end-all be-all of your reality. Like, this mindset is not the truth, right? That being said, let's start getting your cards here. Yeah, the Silent Brother, the Dreamer and the Innocent, Queen of Cups reversed, the Soldiers. Okay. The Silent Brother, yeah, I feel like there might be some things, like, so these are kind of like your advice cards here. With the Silent Brother, I feel like there might have been some things that you've been quiet on. Like, maybe you haven't talked about. Maybe there are certain things that you should talk about with people. Honestly, that might help you get out of this mindset. Like, if you opened up about certain fears or thoughts that you had about your life and your perspective to someone else who you trust, they might help assuage those fears or, like, shift your perspective, because just saying them out loud and getting that out there, and then having someone be like, well, actually, like, you know, what about this? Or, oh, you feel that way? Like, oh, I didn't know. Like, let's talk about it. You know, talking that out with someone might actually help you relieve some of the misconceptions you have about your own life, honestly. With the Dreamer and the Innocent as well, I mean, that's connecting definitely with your inner child. So I feel like you connecting with your inner child. I do have a reading on your inner child. If you have not seen that yet and you want to check that out, it's literally just called Messages from Your Inner Child, I'm pretty sure. So that might also be something that will help you, because I feel like connecting with your inner child will also connect you more deeply with what you truly want, because your inner child might have the right attitude or the right ideas about, like, what you really want in your romantic life, you know? with the Queen of Runes or Queen of Cups in reverse, there's definitely something with this card, especially knowing the characters that are on it, about breaking free, potentially from... This could be related to, like, a mother or female figure in your life who either, like, things weren't, like, your relationship with them wasn't great. Maybe there were some controlling tendencies. Or maybe your relationship with, like, feminine energy in general hasn't been great. You know, whatever your gender is, it doesn't matter. But I think exploring that, or at least... Well, no. I mean, it depends. If that resonates with you and you are feeling called to re-examine some things that might be influencing you from the past in the present now related to a relationship with a feminine figure or your feminine energy or a woman in general, do so. But I also feel like, because this card has the word fate on it, in reverse, I feel like you might also benefit from, with this learn to let go card, letting go of the idea that, like, letting go of the concept of fate in romantic relationships. And I don't say this because I think there's anything wrong with, like, feeling like, oh, this relationship was fated for me, or like, oh, but I think that what it can do sometimes for some people is if you get really fixated on, like, oh, this is, like, this person is my fate, or like, oh, what if I haven't met the person that I'm fated to meet with yet, or like, when will I meet the person who I'm fated to be with? Sometimes you can get really in your head. I'm feeling like you might get really in your head about, like, is this the one for me, or is that the one for me, or like, what's fated for me, or like, what is my fate, or am I fated to be alone, you know, like that kind of thing. And it can really prevent you from, like, living your life in the moment and making decisions and feeling free to make choices about what you want, right? Like for example, if you, like, had, like, if there's, like, if there's a particular person who you were like, oh, like, this is my person forever and ever. It's like, there's not necessarily anything wrong with, you know, being really interested in, like, one particular person. I've seen in my own life where people did have, like, a particular person they were interested in, and after sometimes years they did end up getting together with them, and they have the relationship that they want. It's not that, like, that's, like, inherently wrong to stay fixated on one person, but I feel like for you in your case, if, like, the idea of fate is, like, stressing you out or, like, getting you in your head, or, like, you're like, oh, I gotta control things or try to figure out how to bring this in, like, or you feel like, for some of you, it might even be like there was one person where you're like, that was the love of my life. That was the person, right? And they're in a situation with someone else, or they are out of your life, or, like, that's just not happening. It's like, it is okay to open up to other options, right? Like, you don't have to surrender in defeat to, like, okay, well, like, I guess I'll just be alone then. And it's like, here's the thing, if that's what you want, that's what you want. But, I almost feel like if you're here, you might be unsure. You might be like, well, I kind of want something though. Like, if it can't be with that person, can I still have something with someone else? Like, can I let go of that, right? Can I let go of, like, either a person or an idea of what my life should have been by this point? For some of you too, it's like, oh, my life should have been this way by now, so I can't see how like, my romantic life can shift in a way that I want it to. Like, I feel like some of you feel like you've even passed, I think, your prime, or past the moment in life where you should have had a certain thing. Like, right? Like, there's definitely a thing about timing here, right? Feeling like you've missed your mark, you've missed your place, you've missed your timing. And that is just not true. It's just not true. It's just not true. With the soldiers here, that actually is, the card that takes the place of the Tower card in this deck. And even though it's a very different vibe from the Tower card, the way that this character here is winking, I always think of it as a surprise. Like, I think it's like, you might be surprised. Like, you thought? Like, it was too late? You thought, right? Like, I feel like there's surprises that are opening up for you in the future, and options and choices, and you can, like, make your own path, right? You don't need to follow follow a set plan that you had once in your life that didn't pan out the way that you wanted it to, right? And I know that it might be very painful and difficult sometimes to let go of that, but I also feel like you are being encouraged to be more playful, to have fun with creating your life in the way that you want it to be, rather than getting hung up on the past when you thought it was going to be one way and then it didn't go that way, right? Like, I feel like that is, if anything, what's feeding this depressive view that you can't have what you want, when it's letting go of that idea that you lost anything, or the idea that you even like failed at anything, or the idea, or just letting go of the things that didn't work out in the past like you expected them to. It's gonna actually bring that in, like it's gonna create that for you. Like, you didn't miss your opportunity. There's infinite opportunities, first of all, but you also create your opportunities. You create new ones. And you're a different person than you were back then. If there is a situation that happened in the past that didn't work out for you, you're a different person. You're in a different place. If you're at this tarot reading, you might even have different beliefs about how you can create your reality, and how much say you actually get in what happens for you. And you are definitely being encouraged to step into that role of power of creator, and know that you do have that power. And now that you know that you do have the power to create what you want with your reality, with the World card here, it's very powerful energy, I feel. And you want to feel powerful. You want to feel like you made the decision. You want to feel like you created this thing that you're looking to bring in. Or the dynamic that you're looking to have with your current relationship, or the life that you're looking to have within your current relationship. Whatever it is, like you can create that. And it might look different than what you used to expect, but if you can let go of an idea that you had in your head from years ago, it's like being an artist and having this one idea and being like, this is my creative passion and this is my project. And then you don't put it out, but then you also never like act on any of the other ideas that come to you, and you also maybe don't even get that much inspiration because you're so fixated on this one project, but the one project isn't turning out. Whereas if you took a step back and maybe focused on a different project for a little while, you would come back and you would have all these new ideas and fresh ideas of how to work on that old project. Or you might even turn it into something new. You might even start a bunch of new projects, and they might even be better than what you were fixated on in the past. But in order to see those options, you need to open up to them. In order to see those opportunities, you need to open up to them. You need to let go of the thing that you were so fixated on, right? And I feel like that's going to help you guys get to a place of more freedom and completion and feeling satisfied with what you have in your romantic life, no matter what your situation is specifically. There's definitely something here about being able to be present, being able to be connected to your more playful side, and being able to take the idea of fate less seriously in order to create the fate that you want. And be open to surprises. And I want to say one more thing. For those of you who might still be very emotional about certain things that you've been working to let go, people who might have been in a very even dark place around these sorts of things, right? Oops, sorry, I just kicked the table. I do want to say that this process of reconnecting with your inner child, with your sense of playfulness, with your openness to experiencing surprises and things that you might not have expected, or even just like letting go of the life that you thought that you were going to have that just didn't pan out the way that you wanted. It's okay if it's been a really painful process. It's okay if that has been difficult. And it's okay if it is still, difficult. It's okay for you to mourn and grieve those things, right? If something didn't work out the way that you wanted it to, no matter how big or small you perceive it to be, if there's a part of you that really, really is hurt about it, let that be hurt, right? Let yourself feel that and accept that and know that that's okay, because, well, the sooner that you do that, the easier it will be to let it go and move on. But also, it's not even about that, right? You don't have to push yourself to move on from something that you are genuinely sad about. Sometimes you just have to admit that you are sad about it, right? Sometimes you just have to admit that there were things that disappointed you that didn't work out how you wanted them to. And that's your way of just respecting yourself, honestly, right? So I feel like that might be your first step, is respecting yourself and your desires enough to admit when something didn't meet your expectations. And you might be surprised about where the process of letting yourself feel those things and letting yourself get in touch with that, you might be surprised about where that takes you. But in the moment, all you need to do is just respect yourself enough to admit it, right? And be with yourself through that. And also know that, whatever you choose for the rest of your life, for your romantic relationships or whatever, is worthy of appreciation, is good enough, no matter what everyone else around you has going on. And I think you will get the recognition that you desire in terms of of people seeing the worth and the value of what you've created for yourself in your romantic life and probably outside of it as well. So that was very interesting. I think that's all I've got for you. So if you... Okay, wait. One more thing I want to say. For those of you for whom you have children, and I have not really talked that much about children in most of the readings today, but for those of you who do have children, and perhaps maybe you have children from a prior marriage and that ended at some point and you're a single parent, or you're co-parenting, or you have children with a current partner, and maybe there's a part of you that is concerned about the relationship that you have with them, or how you having a new relationship would impact them, or whatever your situation is. There's also a message here about having faith that you are a good parent, having faith that you are, it's okay for children to, you're not gonna mess up your children's lives by having a new partner or something like that, or being interested in bringing in a new situation, and even if you are a single parent and that's difficult, you are doing the best that you can for them, and they're okay. I don't know why that just came through with the Dreamer and the Innocent card, and so for some of you that could be also, for those of you who relate to that could be a deep insecurity that you might have around your romantic relationships right now, is what about my kids, and am I doing the right thing for them, and is this the right situation for them? And that could be something that's clouding you a little bit in terms of what you actually want, and and that could also be with this card here, the 10 of Charisma in reverse, is you might be thinking, oh, I need to have a relationship that fits the mold of what a traditional family looks like for my kids, right? But if you're just doing that for your kids, it might not actually be what you want, right? Don't do that just because of them, because you might actually, that might not be coming from a space of projecting what society has taught you about what you're capable of doing on your own, or what your situation should look like having kids. But there's a lot of judgment there that isn't necessarily true, and your specific situation in and of itself is unique, and you have the power to create it the way that you want to create it. And so if that doesn't include another partner, or if that doesn't include a traditional marriage and family situation, that's fine. So last minute message for any parents out there that are listening and that resonate with that. Anything else? Any other surprise messages before we go? Okay, last one. Also, if you don't want kids, that's fine. There might be some of you who are who feel pressure, who might have pressure put on you if you are in the opposite situation of oh, me and my partner don't have kids yet, we don't necessarily want them, or I don't have kids and I don't have a partner and I don't necessarily want them, and other people do, and other people are putting pressure on you, or you just feel pressure from society. Don't. Let go of other people's desires for your life. No. Mm-mm. I feel like that's a big theme for you guys. It's just not giving into pressure that you put on yourself to be a certain way at whatever stage of life you're at. Cool. Okay. I think that is finally it. So it's interesting because I feel like this one can apply much broader outside of romantic relationships for a lot of you, but regardless, I do feel like it's like kind of like whatever you want is possible, but you gotta release yourself from the pressure of what you think you should want first. And yeah, so I hope that resonated. I hope that was helpful. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I would love to know if this resonated and how in the comments if you want to leave a comment. And if you are interested in personal readings, we do offer personal readings on sunflowerphilosophy.com, and we also offer hypnosis and human design. So check those out if you want. Link in the description and the pinned comment. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in another reading again sometime very soon. Bye!